Man, I am telling you.
When's the final budget signed?
December 4th or 5th, I'm not sure what the date is. It's at a regular meeting, and that's when
I just wasn't sure when it was.
Usually I would honorary. I don't know how
I keep the little small.
Are you going to start over in January? Get you a new one?
You know, you think the same things. I'm going to say.
No.
Where's Mr. Smith?
I don't know, but his chair's down here.
Where is it? I know I had it.
Did he think it was in Wetmore?
Oh, he's an attorney.
That is a good point.
That is a real possibility, since I thought it was until last week, and Tom said,
I'll bet
it's
I'll
not
bet
in
you.
Wetmore.
Because I thought it was in Wetmore as well until
I did too, and then I asked.
Not me, man. I was on top of it.
Well, Jay and me and,
I was all over.
You are the king. That's all there is to
yeah, Jay and me
Only because I
and Donna would have ended up down there in
it.
Wetmore.
I've been there.
Somebody's got it.
Guarantee you.
Let me see. Of course, if he's down there, we're not gonna get him
You
on
don't
the...
like sitting in the chair?
No, because you're on camera.
Oh, you are there. You aren't here.
If he is in Wetmore, he's not gonna answer
Jackie
the
knows the
phone.
good spot,
Is
right?
that the top of your head,
All
Laura?
the Wetmore Community Center. Not
Oh, we're gonna turn the camera around and do the audios today.
Yeah, that's what we
It's not every day we
Can we
do.
do a wave? Everybody on my side, we're gonna be ready to do.
I'll just show everybody
We
my
want to be the
fishing gear.
organized side over here.
And Jackie is going fishing. What, are you gonna let it ring for 5 years?
Got his
Listen to his
voicemail.
message.
I have to assume, when he's the only one sitting there, he's gonna realize something is up, okay?
He probably just pulled in, now
Counselor
he has no
T.
service
Flower,
for
how you doing,
another.
buddy?
Probably the building's not even
We're gonna
open.
make the
Hopefully
commissioner
he's
meeting.
been away
at
from
5
farm
o'clock
equipment
today.
for a while.
All right, see ya.
He's going, dude.
Number one, I don't need somebody barking at me about how I use my phone. Okay? Meaning you.
You're feisty this
Oh,
morning.
she's got me riled up.
See something about
We
his
watched Open Rain last night. Kevin Costner in that old boardroom, the stables. He said, well, that Cuban cigar had me all riled up. I jumped out of the deal and twisted my that Cuban cigar.
So commissioners, I would like you to petition the State Highway Patrol, Department to put shoulders on 69.
Where?
Shoulders on 69. Well,
South or north?
Got him going out of town.
in this case, it was north. It's really hard to break down. And there you are, right in the middle of all the
yeah.
traffic. There is nowhere to pull off.
That's when you
It
just
is
rip her
very
off down into the bar ditch,
Oh, honey, that would have been roll it down into the bar ditch.
which we've seen that
That's
before.
very steep.
Yeah,
right
remember
there.
we had a meeting with CDOT and they told us
That cost
on the
much.
average $1 million a mile for 4-foot shoulders on each side of the
That's
highway.
a lot of fill in there.
Yeah.
There
We're
you
good.
go. It was bad news.
And
Board
load
of
for
County
500
Commissioners
miles.
meeting will come to order. Let the record show today is November the 14th. It is 9:00 a.m. I would ask if Mr. Lyons would be so kind and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah, I was in a meeting yesterday and gavel was hit, called the meeting to order, and everybody stood up. What are you doing? And they just went right into the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mince words, Tom. They do not mince
I
words.
guess not. Madam Secretary, would you conduct the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower,
Here.
Commissioner Camden.
Here,
Commissioner Prince.
Present.
Attorney Clint Smith, he's gone.
suspiciously.
And
Missing.
Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Thank you. Agenda, amendments to the agenda, gentlemen. I have one, but I will defer to you two.
I don't have any.
I do not.
We need to postpone the Rice Road name change item on the agenda under new business until November the 30th. And Miss Brenda will put that on the agenda for us. She has indicated to me.
Until November 30th?
November 30th, yes. And that is the only agenda item change I had. So we'll move on to audience introductions.
Jackie
Please.
Bubas for the Sentinel.
Go.
Christy Coleman, Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Jackie Hobby, Planning and Zoning.
Terry Napolitan, Samsville Services Board.
Ed Lyons, Mount Belair, Sweden.
Don Hobby Finance and HR.
Welcome. It's not Neapolitan, it's not Neapolitan, it's
There's
Napolitan.
no E in it, it's N-A-P.
Right, Napolitan. I've heard you called about everywhere you
And it's
come.
not
You
Napoleon.
should see me in the military when I was called.
Well, welcome.
By the Marines?
Marine Corps has a way of,
I like the ice cream name.
Yeah, nice to have you here.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Neapolitan.
A motion to approve the minutes of October 31, November 1, November 2nd.
Also move.
All second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of 10/31, 11/1, and 11/2. Discussion.
Look pretty good.
Yeah, look at them. Good.
Short and sweet, not
Short.
unlike the time we take to get them generated.
I happen to know that our esteemed secretary came in on her day off to work on those said minutes, so thank you. I appreciate that. No
Were you
glory
busy
when you
with
come in on your day off because nobody knows about it.
Were you busy with something else, or?
Yeah, man.
Well, we didn't see her in
I
the
don't know-
newspapers, so
I don't know
she
what you did.
did the election very well.
I don't know what you did.
By the way, I
We're
do
not-
have a box of ballots in the back of my car.
Oh, we got another box.
Those are Florida.
Just joking.
those came from Broward.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're for 2020, I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
You get 'em early.
Early vote.
thank you. I know you came in on Veterans Day to do those, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The record shows the minutes were approved. October 31, November 1, November 2nd. Commissioner items. Commissioner Canada, would you like to begin?
A couple things.
Okay.
Strat plans in work. You all will be getting, as soon as we get them out, the people that, we've had a lot of people inputs, sorting through the lists. We'll run that by you guys here as soon as we get them. The committee, there's two parts to that. There's the task force, which is the people that are going to be interviewed, as well as work on the questionnaires at length. And then there's the committee guys, about 9.
And you're talking about the strategic plan for economic
For economic development, the grant that we're working under with Cheryl Trent,
Yes, Brand.
S. Brand. And then the survey will be put out as soon as we can. And one thing that I'll have a letter, I'm going to send a letter out saying here's what's going to happen. It'll go into, it's a press release. And there are several ways for the people to interact. We're going to point out it's on websites, Facebook, blah, 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 and on hard copy. And we've got to figure out how to get that into the businesses and into the schools so that people that don't have the computers can have an input and we get a great cross-section of the county to respond. So and that'll be out soon. So you'll see that as we go, try to get that deadline for some of this is the 1st of November. We'd like to get up to December, mid-December, and we want to get the survey out or a little before to get it into the schools, whatever. So that's, stay tuned for that. And the newspapers ought to be looking for the press release. And on the airport, as you know, we've got a bidders, we're going to reveal the bids. We had 3 contractors put in for the work to remove the berm at the airport. And the only urgency there was to get it done before the frost got too bad. And OT6 Ranch would like to land as soon as possible. So that's why it's there. And I think according to the conference we had a conference call yesterday, a bidders conference. Make sure there was questions and answers to all the questions in common, so every contractor had the same benefit of understanding what other questions might have been and understand the RFP.
Where was that held at?
It was on a conference call.
Okay.
So they were all, and it included the engineering team that built the RFP. And so we modified it accordingly and went forward. So we're anxious to see the results of that today. And then I had also talked with the CenturyLink team, Abel and company, on the meeting we're going to have tomorrow. Going to have the Forest Service there, and they're still up for supporting with dollars some kind of a fix. We're going to discuss different options at the meeting. And I did talk, as I mentioned before, with Dola. They'll be there, and they are options to do things like drag a line up, hard scrabble, hang a line up, hard scrabble, those kind of things we need to talk with. And then finally, I've been getting a lot of calls because the season's going to be where you get a lot of trash. Presents are going to be open. Everybody's going to be throwing things out. We need to talk at some point probably about the hours at the landfill because a lot of people can't get out there during the open hours, especially on the weekends. So maybe that's something that would cost us some money. That's why we need to discuss what are some options to do a better job of doing better, keeping people who can get out there going. I'm not asking to do it now.
Yes, just a comment to go along with that. It's been discussed a couple times because it's an ongoing issue.
Yeah.
That's why the landfill is open on a Saturday and closed on a Monday.
I understand
so that
that.
people could, do that. So, I mean, I understand we're not going to discuss now, but
Yeah.
it's been an
And then we got to do a better job of advertising. Like they took Saturday off this Saturday because it was closed
Right.
because of Veterans Day. So we just got to make sure we post things sooner. Anyway, there's some issues there we can talk about at some point.
Well, and just a quick comment, I had a very irate citizen. Oh no, she wasn't all that irate. No. Good point though, because of Veterans Day, then they were closed Tuesday, the following Tuesday after any Monday holiday, they're going to be closed, and so I don't think we've done a very good job of informing the community about that.
Some people.
I didn't have any idea they would be closed on Tuesday either. But yeah, so
And it's
maybe when we
understandable
have,
that people take a Monday off and then it's a holiday. They have to take a
Yeah.
day off.
so I think during our staff reports we can maybe bring that up.
I think we probably ought to discuss whether that's appropriate or not. I mean, if you work for a company and your Monday is normally your Monday off, you don't get an extra day off just because the company's closed that day.
Well, interesting
And some companies
point.
don't observe all the government holidays.
Uh,
It depends on what the business they
I
are.
don't think they get a free day off just because they're normally closed on a holiday. That's discussion, I think.
Right.
The three of us ought to make a decision upon.
Yeah, I had that discussion with my son-in-law who works at the federal prison. His normal day off is Monday.
He did get an extra
He
day.
did get an extra day. He was off on Tuesday. I went, what? So yeah, they gave him, his holiday was Tuesday and his day off was Monday, which I didn't realize that. I thought that was.
Now you gotta hand it, Road and Bridge boys are out on Monday.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
on
the
Sunday.
boys are out in the middle of the night.
And they were out at
Dinner
4 in the
at night.
morning.
Yes, now those guys put their hours in. I'm not an issue with them.
Yeah, I think it's a conversation we maybe start with Rusty and
Yeah.
during staff report.
Let me think about it when it's staff reports, but we'll ask about it.
Good.
Okay, that's all I got for now.
Excellent. I've got a couple items before I get into my calendar, or I guess one item, and that is the underfunded courthouse grant hearing on November the 30th in Denver. We requested a couple time slots. Amanda Hunter, Judge Hunter, Lisa Rowe, and Ann Barthrop have offered to go to that hearing and represent Custer County. I think it would be in our best interest to also have a commissioner there, so it's because it actually is a county commissioner presentation.
I was planning on attending,
I
but
could be there because I'm gonna be coming back from Alaska 2 days. I'm gonna stay up there and just attend the meeting, return.
I'll have a wonderful trip. Here's what I was gonna say. It's kinda like the Broadband thing where
Right.
all the commissioners went. I
think we need
think,
more.
and understand you couldn't make it, but I would suggest that both you and I go, Tom, just as a support to show them how serious we are and how much we really care about this.
I can be there too.
Yeah, now, so here's my concern, obviously that's county
So
commissioner.
when's our meeting at the county
It's
commission?
BOCC that day.
All we need to do, oh, that's right, it is a BOCC
So,
day. Oh.
we could maybe
You can all call in.
change that
To Kelly.
date for commissioner meeting.
Well, but we got checks, vouchers.
The date part is of no consequence to me, but it has to be payday. But that doesn't mean I can't date the checks as such for payday, because we're only paid 12 times a year.
Could we meet the day before commissioner meeting?
It's up to us.
Yeah, it's not my call on that.
As far as you're concerned, could we?
It would
As
create
long
you
as
a
I
lot
have
of
time
hardship.
enough,
Not
and
gonna
now's
wreck your
time
world.
enough so that I could run those checks and do the other part.
Miss Brenda, you have comments about that? We had not talked about this, so I just,
I don't have any problem with it, as long as Donna's okay with it.
Yeah, as long as I have time. If the attorney was here, he could say that we had to, do they have to call in and say, I approve being paid? Because I don't know the legalities and the commissioner's side of that part. I'm sure there's a way, because there's got to be, with all the counties that happens a lot.
what's your 29th?
So I just don't know what they do.
That happened one other time,
Coming back
but
from
there was
Alaska,
one
so
commissioner here,
I don't
and the
wanna
other
drive
two
down
called
here
in
and
and we
back, but I'll
approved
stay
the
here.
check.
Checks or
Yeah.
something, and so, you know, if they, even if
I'd
they
rather
just called
have it
in
the day
to Kelly
before than
and
try
said,
to move
yay,
it to
and
the
I've lost
Possibly
jobs
you'd have to
or
go to
something,
the,
or something,
what,
yeah.
third?
Yeah, that would be
So I would
bad.
say let's do the day before.
Yeah, because we're gonna run into 3 back-to-back meetings.
We'll have to notify that the staff meetings will be that day also, we'll move them.
Yeah, our agenda at this point is not extremely
Yeah.
heavy on the 30th, but
I think that makes the most.
I move we move the meeting to the Thursday before, whichever day.
Well
that
done,
is.
and I'll second it.
okay, and
And I'm gonna call in.
Yeah.
okay.
You're good.
Yeah, as long as you didn't tell me the day before.
Uh,
Because that would be a little scary, but.
It moved and seconded to,
Move the 30th
move our November 30th meeting, BOCC meeting back to November 29 at 9 o'clock in the morning, discussion. As Commissioner Candid indicated, he will not be here, but he can phone in, and I'm good with that. We need to try our new
I'd like to try it out here, see if I can hear you.
conference call center anyway, so.
No, I think it's great. The only comment I would have is we also have staff meetings that day.
Right.
So let's move that also.
Yes, I agree, move the staff meetings back to the 29th as part of the, and as we had discussed previously, speaking of staff meeting, we had said that it would not be part of the formal commissioner meeting from now on, that it would be a separate thing in the afternoon, correct?
Mm.
And a commissioner or multi-commissioners could attend that, should attend that.
I think that's fine. We do need to post it though, so that the public can be there if they need to. And if, just in case, you know, I like to attend that, so.
Just in
maybe
case we
two
pop
commissioners
off.
go. Right.
Are you talking about the staff
The
meeting?
staff meetings.
Now, I was understanding the staff meeting is not open to the public, that's why we
I was
moved
gonna
it
say,
to the
that's why
afternoon.
you moved it.
That was why you decided only one commissioner would go.
That's right.
Right,
Because the staff felt icky about having
right.
the public there and me there and whatever.
I think that's
and-
right.
Yeah.
So Commissioner
I
As-
Kennedy
as
is
is-
I
on.
guess that makes sense.
As
Yeah,
is,
that's was the
Correct.
That
discussion.
makes sense, so you're free to speak your mind.
Absolutely.
Without having to worry about a camera and, but I guess it makes sense, so maybe we could just.
One of us can rotate.
Rotate.
We ought to
Do
rotate
that. If you wanna
through.
go to this one and the next one, you and one of the two of us will go, just so we're there to answer questions,
Right.
observe and give encouragement.
Take issues to the board.
Right,
Exactly.
yeah, be a liaison to the board, so.
Okay.
I can certainly do that on the 29th, or
No, that's fine.
Commissioner
Why don't
Canada's
you-
gonna be gone,
Why
but
don't you do that and I'll
Okay.
put you down.
we'll just
Uh,
get on the
she'll be doing
rotating
that.
schedule.
What time is that, just out of
1
curiosity?
o'clock. So,
I'm not-
Just want to be careful.
No, that makes sense, I forgot.
yeah.
Ms. Boovis, thank you for reminding me.
you're welcome.
Cool about.
Oh, I'm just kidding. Jackie Hobby may be here with her fishing lure, but and you'll be alone, won't be able to help you.
I love her necklace. I don't know where you get off on this fishing lure thing, but.
Those comments before taping, after.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
exactly
Gotta stand tall.
That's right. I'll roll over in a heartbeat. Love your necklace. It's very nice. Had to look at the camera when I said that. So, I agree completely, gentlemen. I think as we did, all three of us went to the broadband hearing in Denver. I think that we'd be well advised for all three of us to attend that.
Yeah, they've been real good supporting us so far.
No, not yet. We're still in debate.
He's debating it.
So, I can tell you that this hearing is in the Judicial Center, just south of, across the street, no, on the north side of the Capitol building, and the parking is a nightmare.
Horrendous.
We don't know what time that's gonna be. It's kinda like that hearing in Denver we went to for broadband. We requested some later time slots. So I think we'll just have to wait and decide if we go the night before, if we go up that morning.
Depends on what time it is.
I went to I knew I'd forget the name of this, our technology SIPA presentation up there, and I'm telling you, I'll bet I walked 12 blocks. I mean, the parking is horrendous.
There's parking. I went to the PUC hearing, and it's underneath the building, if you get there early.
We booked the county plane to take us.
Oh, thank God he's not
We're gonna
frozen
get
to the
that
ground
done.
So I don't know, we can work on that. Commissioner Campbell will be there, if we go up the day of, so
We'll work on it, we find out what time
I was
it is.
sitting here
Find out
thinking,
what it is.
keep going outside, he's frozen to the ground.
I don't, of course, Ann would go from here. I don't know about Lisa and Amanda. They would probably leave from home to go, so. But if we can carpool.
Oh, there's Clint.
Go ahead and you can start now.
Yeah, we just
We had trouble with your tie today?
We've been casually visiting for 22 minutes.
I'm happy to report everything's fine at the Wetmore Community
We
Center.
knew that.
You made a quick trip back from
Yeah, I did.
Oh my gosh.
Were you lonely?
I don't know.
Did you have coffee with the boys or not?
Yeah, I stopped down there for a while.
Oh my
Had all the chairs set up and everything before I realized, hey, I'm the only one here.
Somebody's always the last to find out. It's okay.
You're not angry, are you?
What?
You're not angry about it?
No, I'm
Okay.
angry for being stupid. I'd be angry my whole life.
The counselor, my apologies. Would you care to compliment Miss Jackie on her lovely necklace today?
Well, that is a lovely necklace. Did you pick that up at the last home visit you did, the one we talked about last week?
Ooh, that's more sweet.
Oh.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, you just bailed Tom out.
I call it a fishing lure, and I believe you upped me on that. So.
Ooh, that was low.
That was good. Welcome, counselor. Nice to have you here this morning.
I think our counselor has anger issues.
Yeah. So we're still in the period of discussion on our motion to actually change. No. Yeah.
Did we know?
No.
To postpone it. So because of this item of that hearing. So any other pertinent discussion about changing the date?
Tell it to Clint. Clint, you're
Oh,
moving
yeah,
the
let's
meeting.
get this to council. We're changing another meeting.
Okay, I'll be the last to know.
You are.
Because everybody in the room now knows except you. So, yeah, good point. Thank you. That's great. November 30th meeting, we are in discussion of voting on moving that back to the 29th.
Okay.
Because we need to be representing our county at Denver at an underfunded courthouse grant hearing on the 30th.
Okay,
That would be in the courthouse in West Cliff.
I'll check out Wetmore on my way here.
I mean, you're welcome to do that, just in case we change it, but 205 South.
You're gonna have to blitz fast.
Further discussion, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We will have our end of the month November meeting on November the 29th. And that's no heartburn for you?
No, just, if, when you make the announcement to pay the bills, that it just says November 30th.
Oh, okay.
That won't be
Yeah.
dated the day that you say that.
We'll do it.
You don't get paid a day
I know, no, good God, no.
We get paid 12 times a year,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what day, does it? I mean, I'm fine with the.
If you're an
All right.
hourly person, you could say that I did not pay you for that last day of
That's
the
true.
month.
That's
So,
true.
no, not a court
Way to
case
go,
I
you
wanna
brought
do, yeah.
Very
Not a
good.
court case.
Commissioner Prince, item, sir.
Yeah, I would like to first congratulate Commissioner Kanda on his hard-fought, overwhelming victory.
Oh, yeah, that was
To
tough.
be reelected
Oh,
and,
yes, yes.
Rest of it was.
yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations. Look forward to working with you again.
Well, may I interject? He turned in his phone, he turned in his computer, he
Yeah,
turned
yeah.
in his mouse, and he gave up all of his passwords.
Now I get to
I
get
don't know
him
what that
reissued.
means. So whether maybe he's
Vernon's
nervous-
fixing it for me.
maybe he's nervous about the election's what I'm thinking.
Vernon's fixing it.
I just had to pick on you.
Congratulations on your landslide victory. It's been a little over a week since the last meeting. I really haven't been all that active. I met with tourism twice, once individually with a member who really just wanted to get a better feeling of what's going on, and I met with him again last night. Unfortunately, I had an issue and I needed to leave a little early, but they promised me they would all be good little boys and girls, and I believe they were. Not that I mean that in any negative way, it was just be nice to each other. I attended the recycling meeting, worked with Joan Liebman, and it's not Lee Berman, someone called her that yesterday, she challenged that. It's Joni Liebman on the grant that she put in that was very favorably approved. I stopped in at the early childhood development meeting. I did not stay for very long. That was last week. That seemed to be going good. Just changing the subject, I have not heard anything from the housing study we funded that is supposed to be completed first quarter, actually in January of 2019. We're supposed to have input into it, and I was just curious if either of you gentlemen have heard anything. If not, I'm going to go ahead and I'll follow up with
That'd be great.
Autumn on that. Get a report the next time. Okay, other than that, I handle the same kind of things, snow plow piled up, the side on people's driveways, and those kind of things, and I tell them get over it, and nicely
You
tell
mean
them.
get over it and then drive over
Get
it?
over it, yeah.
I thought that's what you did.
Road Bridge did a wonderful job. Of course, we all attended the Veterans Day dinner, which I thought was,
Oh yeah, that was a very nice day.
that was a great dinner, and some of us were very spiffy in our outfits and our uniforms from back in the day. And some of us didn't fit into them anymore, so they just were suits, but it was a very good dinner. That's what I've been up to.
Good, thank you. I was remiss. I said I wanted to go over a couple things before I went through my calendar, and then I forgot to go through my calendar, so I'll do that real quick if you don't mind. Let's see, I did go out and attended the airport board meeting with CDOT and Armstrong when they came down. Commissioner Karen, of course, was there. But I sat in on that. It was informative and encouraging. So those people are on top of it. CDOT is obviously very supportive of our airport down there and have been over the last 25 years. So that was nice. On November the 7th, I communicated with our newly hired county extension agent via email. A young lady coming out of Creed, and so offered my assistance to help with housing or whatever else she needed to make that transition, starting January 2nd.
That's what is this person's name?
This person's name is Guinevere Nelson.
Very sharp. I enjoyed the interviews, and good choice.
Yes.
She's a good
Will
one.
she be living here?
I believe so, yes. That was her plan. I think I have found her a place to rent.
Because that was a major issue
Right.
with the young lady that left housing.
Yeah, no, she is definitely planning on living in the county. We'll
Wonderful.
find her a place to live.
Can you spell her name for me?
No.
Yes, that would be Guinevere, Guinevere Nelson.
No W?
Guin.
Because I am a spelling major.
Oh, that's right.
That's
Of all people
grammar
with
and
questions.
pronunciation.
Guinevere Nelson.
Okay. It's pronunciation.
Yeah, and Commissioner Canada was able to sit in on that interview, as he indicated, and she mentioned during that interview that she has been the executive director of a nonprofit in Creed that deals with mining reclamation for the last 9 years. So she's ready for a change, and I was excited about that tenure on a job that stick to it.
Not changing jobs every other day, I get it.
That's what we're after,
That's
so
wonderful.
I'm excited about it. I think she'll do a good job, and it'd be nice to get her on board and up and running again, so.
Timeline, we don't know for sure yet.
Pardon?
Timeline.
No, January 2nd is her start
She's
date.
gonna start on the 2nd.
Will you guys be doing a press release, or will CSU?
That's a good question.
Probably us.
I would guess probably us. I can pursue that with CSU and see.
They could furnish us with some stuff.
Yeah, good point. Let me make a note of that real quick so I don't forget. And then November the 8th, I attended the Upper Arkansas Water Conservation District meeting in Salida. And I also sat in on the Custer County Kids Council meeting on their monthly meeting, social and emotional wellness, down at the library. Did you come into that?
I was in that just for a little while.
Okay, I was up front. I didn't
I was
see
ill that
you,
night.
so cool. Had a good turnout, and I think people are interested and committed to that whole concept.
Very well attended.
Yeah. Let me just make a note here real quick. And then Saturday, the 10th, I attended the Custer County Conservation District's annual meeting at the multipurpose room in the school. They had 2 speakers there. One gentleman was a former state climatologist, a very interesting presentation. And the second speaker was a water court judge from Denver. So he had a very interesting historical perspective. Went back to 1865 and started in on kind of the historical progression. Yeah, so actually 1867 was the first recorded right in San Luis Valley, and they actually had a picture. They had a little slideshow. They had a picture of that ditch that's still running, and so I thought that was pretty interesting. 150 years ago, 151 years ago. So a lot of history there, but they had a good turnout, and Bob Miller's the president of that conservation district, and he did a good job chairing that, and so it was very informative. And then, of course, I believe the American Legion was appreciative of the fact that all 3 commissioners were at their Veterans Day dinner. Thank you, Governor, for attending that. I thought they had a great program and a good speaker. And then last night I went to a school board meeting, and Commissioner Canada was recognized for his volunteerism on making the new scoreboard happen, basically. So I'm assuming you're the one that initially approached Hot Six Ranch and asked them.
And Trinity helped them out a lot.
Yeah. We had a lot of recognition at the school board meeting last night for the volunteers, but you were really the keystone deal on getting that whole thing started.
Coordinated and got the engineering done.
Good. Very good, so I appreciate that, thank you. So that's the end of my report, and I apologize for not including that when I first started. Anything else, gentlemen, under commissioner items? Attorney items? Oh yeah, you are here.
Kit Shy was here at, I think, our first meeting of the month and made a request. He was here as the fire chief, requesting that we assist the Wet Mountain Fire Protection District. They're acquiring an easement on a piece of land to put in an underground cistern. I got that easement prepared and sent it to Kit, and he was satisfied with it, and he was presenting it to the the fire district board last night for their approval. He's already presented it to the woman who's gonna grant the easement. And the idea is initially they're gonna put in a 5,000 gallon cistern underground. But he says the piece of property that they're getting the easement on is big enough they could put other cisterns on, perhaps up to 60,000 gallons of water there. So it's, I think it'll be very helpful for the fire protection district to have a source of water that close instead of having to travel many miles to fill their trucks. Along with that, he was asking if you would consider an ordinance, make it unlawful for anybody to tamper or damage, deface property. They're gonna have this cistern there. It is gonna have a security fence around it, and there'll be signs on it, but I've been working on a proposed ordinance that I'll present to you and see if it's something that you think would be worthwhile, not just for the fire protection district, but for all county property.
That's gonna be my question.
Yeah, and, let's see, I met with Jackie last week. We've talked several times about the cease and desist orders that you approved a couple of weeks ago, and she's had some progress. And are you gonna be talking about those?
We'll talk about that in a few minutes, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
You're on the agenda.
Actually, I'm on the agenda for an HP, but I will be leaving again to go out to the cease and desist.
Okay, the one that you and I talked about last week?
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, she's pretty much knee deep in some issues out there, literally.
When you say knee deep, you're not kidding.
Yeah.
But the point is that we are in progress on a
Yes.
specific cease and desist that we discussed at our last meeting.
Correct. I met with Vernon yesterday. He had an issue about an open records request that he had received. And so I discussed that with him, and then I've also talked to Shannon about some issues. That's just the usual thing. I get inquiries about various, matters, and I provide that sort of assistance. Had an email from you yesterday, Tom, talking about there's, and I think it's on the agenda, the opening the sealed bids for the sale of some property, and if that does happen, and I think I'll wait until we do that to talk to you about what our options are there, but I can certainly handle the legal end of it, of course. That's all I had to report on.
Okay, thank you. Questions from council?
Nope.
Good. Administrative assistant items.
I have nothing today.
Okay. Public comment. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. I'm a little confused about the relationship between the Attainable Housing Committee and the county. They came to you and got your approval on their board, sort of like tourism and some of the other boards.
Right.
Are they an official board of the county then?
Yes. Bylaws have been adopted and the members have been approved. And I think by, I don't know what the word is, but my thinking is if we approve an organization's bylaws as a county entity, then we're really adopting them as a county entity.
And we also approved the membership, so
Right.
I agree
Same
with you
thing as
completely.
the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I,
And the
in
budget to work on.
my perspective, certainly they're a county entity.
So from now on in January, you'll be
Yes.
doing that whole
We'll
thing
review
with
their
the,
board as well.
Yeah.
with the board, and will they have, they'll have their own budget? I mean, I know that you guys
Yes,
gave them,
eventually they will. They did not technically this year go in through the budget hearings because they weren't in existence.
And we anticipate next year they'll be part of the budget process.
okay,
Is that fair, Ms. Donna?
I was gone changing my signs so people could get their bids over here
Oh.
since I'm
Oh,
sitting here and
yeah.
they're dropping.
Yeah, I think next
Sign
year
work.
they will probably submit a bid just like.
No, I
we
didn't
did.
have it out. I thought my schedule was 9, so I didn't know. Well, he's here, I think, for this.
Yeah.
So
Thank
I'm
you. I
sure
should-
people
yeah.
weren't wondering,
Not clear on
because
that.
zoning's locked and mine's
Um,
locked, so they wouldn't be standing out in the sidewalk going, hello.
Yeah, one of the, I guess, unusual circumstances is that board has also created a position of ex officio for autumn dealers.
Right.
And actually does have voting rights on that board if
only a tiebreaker.
If a vote ends in a tie, then she has the ability to vote, so
Is
it's
it-
unusual, but.
Is this not just a name change from affordable housing to attainable housing?
Right, but there was never a formal
Okay.
Entity.
But we've
entity
always
committee.
assigned board members for affordable
Right.
housing every year.
Right.
So
Right.
instead of affordable housing, it's now attainable housing,
Right.
correct?
Correct. And
Okay.
they follow the same procedure,
Right.
putting in their names, they
Okay.
wanna be on it and that kind of
Got broader
stuff.
scope.
But
Same
they
thing
never
as
had a
everybody
set of
else.
bylaws, and
Okay.
we've kind of formalized that whole thing.
Is it officially a board now or a committee? Cause I thought it would call themselves a committee before.
Actually, it's attainable housing.
Committee.
Cause we
I
had
thought it
discussed
was
that,
board.
Maybe that's a great question.
I thought it was board, actually, let me see. Of course, now when I'm in a hurry, I won't be able to find it, but.
Your point's well taken.
well, we had discussed that if it was a permanent entity, as opposed to just a temporary thing to look into a particular issue, it would be a board.
Board, it should be
Right.
board.
I believe I agree with you there. That I thought, and I'm just struggling finding that.
No, we just call it, it's on
Look in
it was on the
minutes
31st,
from, that was on the second.
31st is when it was on the agenda. Attainable housing bylaw of October.
Kinda depends on what their documents say, right?
That's correct.
But that can be correct.
I don't see it in the minutes on the 31st.
I thought it was on that.
Oh, it was on the agenda, no way.
We
On the
changed it
second.
to
Well, maybe
November
we
2nd.
moved
It
it.
was
Oh,
on
yeah.
the 31st, and we moved it to November 2nd, so let me look that up real quick. That's a great question, Counselor, thank you.
It says committee on their bylaws.
Okay.
That were approved.
I'll research that a little bit. Yeah, it does, attainable.
I was thinking that's what you.
They've always called themselves a committee, but I think.
I thought it was, the
Right.
intent was that it was going to be a board.
I think it needs to be.
Or approving members.
So, I'll do a little research on that, and then we'll get back with them. We may have to change that.
Right.
Do you have a copy of the bylaws, Brenda?
Yeah,
I just can't lay my hands on my
you
copy
go to
right
your
now.
board packet for the second, probably in there.
Oh, okay, I was just there, didn't realize that. Oh, the board packet on the second? Sorry, here, let me look. Affordable Housing Committee. Yeah,
It needs to be.
I think,
I see it.
Ms. Brenda, could you put that on the agenda for the 29th?
Yes.
Thank you. And we will,
I would ask one of their
you're
representatives.
right, that's what I was saying, we'll invite those to the meeting and have a discussion with them. I'll actually alert them ahead of time. Reasonable, Mr. Kanda?
That would make it officially a board,
Great question, thank you. Other comment from the public?
Can I comment?
Yes.
Or not? We talked about the Christmas party. Do you wanna add that on? What do you wanna do there?
You can,
I just thought about it.
probably ought to talk about it.
Yeah, there's been some individuals come to me and just in conversation basically wondered if the county building, the courthouse building here, Christmas party, if we wanted to do it, typically it's from noon to 2, and we would have that here as kind of a potluck dinner.
On what
There was, hadn't been a
Haven't
date.
decided.
Yeah, hadn't been a date
In
yet.
the past, we actually closed the courthouse for those hours.
Right. And there was some discussion about going off campus and having that Christmas party somewhere else at a food venue. I didn't have a feeling really one way or the other. The thinking behind that was that it prevents or it allows more time socially, and people aren't having to prepare food, bring food, set up, decorate, clean up, wash the dishes, and go back to work.
So about.
If they were going to
really
some other
think about
restaurant.
would be like Tony's
Right.
restaurant, Tony's,
Yeah,
because it's large enough to
Willie's or-
handle it.
Mhm.
And then would the county then pay for buffet type thing?
There's a great question. There is this standing question of what role does the county have or should have in helping defray the cost of these Christmas parties? Road and Bridge, of course, has the advantage where they collect their scrap steel all year, and that goes towards paying for a portion of their Christmas party. The Sheriff's Department's Christmas party's paid through his budget, which indirectly means the county pays that. And the courthouse, that has not been happening. So there is a question about, hey, would the county help pay for our Christmas party as well?
Well, I personally think there isn't anything wrong with having an office party in the office. That's kind of a tradition all across America. And I'm afraid we lose some people going out to dinner.
Well, we're not talking dinner.
I know,
We'd be
we're talking lunch or whatever
12
it is.
to 2, the same hours, yeah. There is a discussion about, should it be 12 to 2 or should it be in the evening? And I think that's an internal decision.
I fully respect what you're saying, but I kinda like the idea of going to an off-site, because we don't have a big enough room for all of our 80 employees to get, 80-plus employees to get together where they can just chit-chat and Merry Christmas. And if they're in a large venue like Tony's anteroom, more people could, you'd be able to interact socially better.
Mhm.
So,
Well-
I kinda like the idea of going off campus, and I personally don't have a problem if the county, if we set up, it's not a budgetary item, but if we use some of our discretionary money for paying up to X amount of dollars, and I don't know what's reasonable, but a reasonable amount,
Take donations.
I don't have a problem with that.
Well, a couple things. I want to respond to your comments that we're not talking about a county-wide Christmas party because Road and Bridge has their own, Sheriff's Department has their own. So we're really only
Right,
talking
we're
about, and that's what I want to ask you.
building.
That's correct.
Yeah,
So we're not,
just-
there might be 80 people, but not 80 employees.
Correct.
Okay. A question I had for Miss Cindy real quick, and somebody asked me that, maybe you and I had this conversation yesterday. Are you guys included in the Sheriff's Office Christmas party, search and rescue?
Oh, Search and Rescue does their own banquet,
Okay.
and it's sort of an awards banquet, and we invite, usually Jeff Uzier and somebody from the Sheriff's Department, so I think Shannon and Chris and Jeff are coming this year, and then we do our own
All right.
fundraising and stuff, so no county funds.
Is it a Christmas party or just your end of the year awards banquet?
It's, no, we do it up at the
combination?
Alpine, so
Okay.
it's actually November 30th.
Okay.
This is Custer County Search and Rescue, so, and then,
Okay, and when I first said, are you part of that, you started to nod yes, you must have thought I was asking about EMS? Do you-
EMS, I think, does a potluck. CES and OEM typically don't do anything. I usually don't even know when the Christmas party is over here unless I
Yeah.
happen to walk in. So
Right.
I don't, do the gift exchange. But a lot of that's because, there may be a meeting on my calendar or something where I just can't make it. So.
Yeah, I think the idea here, correct me if I'm wrong, you would know, Donna and Brenda would know better than I, that we were talking about a building Christmas party for the employees in this building.
Right.
Now, should that be inclusive of other people? I don't know that. I wouldn't think.
We invite the health
I was
department.
gonna say,
The
the
health
health
department.
department
The
and.
health
It's in the
department
building.
always Tim.
Oh, with,
Yeah, from Alyssa or was
Oh,
Donald
Alyssa,
or
and,
Gail,
yeah,
they've always
so,
came over.
Tim, sure.
Because I don't think the
And I think
intent was to
you
invite the
just
airport
come right
board,
and
to start inviting
That's
members of the
what I
board.
did,
Just don't want.
later than I did.
And I think Posse does theirs with the Sheriff's Department
I
now. I
believe-
think it used to be 2 separate dinners,
Right.
but I think Shannon's got that as a cohesive.
So what do we wanna do? We wanna decide something
Well,
today, or are we gonna wait and decide?
we probably ought to-
Volunteer
What do we want?
Here's the problem, if we don't.
Probably ought to decide
if we
something
don't-
today.
yeah,
Better do it today.
Because there's Christmas parties as early as December
Everywhere,
5th,
that's
I've
right.
already committed to, so.
Yeah.
I think indirectly the county pays for the sheriff's department's Christmas party,
Right,
because it's in his budget.
right.
I believe, based on our discussions last year with Road and Bridge, they're pretty comfortable with where they're at, because they have their salvage scrap steel money.
Right.
But that leaves the courthouse.
I don't have a problem helping that out, you know, if we decide to go to Tony's.
Yeah.
I
Now-
think we ought to let you've been doing it, what do you?
Well, and
what
this
do you
year
want?
it is
We-
clerk and recorder's office.
Yeah, I know.
Their
And
turn
we took a
to-
poll
You wanna leave?
yesterday,
Oh, did you?
and the majority want to keep it during the day instead of at night, and they would like to they would like to leave,
Go off.
so that,
Right.
and the reason why is it takes a lot of time for us to put that together, and
Sure.
we're so busy anymore, we don't have time to put
Right.
it together.
And then you have the cleanup to worry about, then you
Right.
put it off-site.
So a 2-hour thing, you're really looking
Do
maybe
we
an
have
hour
to
and
vote
15
on this,
minutes.
or can we
so.
just decide to do it?
Oh, well, I
We
think
don't
if we're
have to vote.
gonna fund part of it, we need to vote on that.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Okay, I move we have a Christmas party and we'll sponsor it
to what degree?
to help buy some of the pizza. And I don't know if we wanna do it all, or are we
Second
gonna?
it so that we can
Okay.
discuss.
Yeah, let's
All right,
get a
then
discussion going.
The moved and seconded that the
Help sponsor
county help defray the cost of the courthouse building Christmas party. Discussion.
If we could get an idea of approximately how many people we're talking about, would I don't wanna use the word budget, but would our allocation be maybe $10 or $15 per person, something like that, no greater?
You know what I'd rather do, Denny, is let's let Kelly get somebody together. We're gonna do it. And now we need to go understand how many, and we need to understand what it's gonna cost.
You're
So
absolutely
let's let them come back. Let's
to
just
us
go
and
ahead
say-
and and then we can figure out what
That makes
proportion we can do, and they'll work
Can I
the
make a
difference.
suggestion?
Sure.
Sure.
So yesterday, when we were talking about this, some of the people said, well, if we do it like that, can we bring our spouse if they can come? And we said, yeah, that was fine. And they said, we don't have a problem paying a portion of it. So what if you came up with a lump sum and said, this is what we're gonna give toward it, whatever you
That's
go
fine.
above and
Sure.
beyond, you divide up between all
You
your.
know, that's what I was thinking, if we're talking 50 employees, I'm just making a number up, and we agreed at $10 apiece, or $15 apiece, that's what we'd allocate, and then if you wanna bring spouses or whatever, you would just pay
So
that.
let's move we do it, I'll amend that to say to include a $500 up to and not to exceed $500. That gets you the 40 people.
Is that sufficient money to, I mean, I don't wanna,
The supplement, they're gonna have to.
yeah, I know,
pony
but
up.
if they brought their own dishes, it's not much coming out of your own pocket. I don't wanna burden our employees by going, look, we're having a great Christmas party, but each you're gonna have to kick
buys
in
a lot of
$20 a
pizza.
person to supplement what we don't. I'd like to make sure we have
That's why I
enough
wanted
money.
her to tell us if we pick a number, they can get a price from Tony's.
We're in public comment, so I'll allow. Did you have a question?
No, it's just, I think that if you do one of their buffets, you can probably do it for that much money and nobody has to pay
Yeah,
anything.
I was just gonna
That's
say,
what I'm
I think
thinking too, I
that's.
mean,
Could be.
they're
I don't
pretty,
know.
they go a long ways on those, except for the drinks, you buy your own drinks.
I
Yeah,
I mean, soda pops.
I'm back.
Let me say too that, for the record, Road and Bridge having their Christmas party at a restaurant, they are asking each employee to pay $10, and they're making up the difference. I don't know what the price is, but
You know what, that's the answer. How about we have every person who comes pay a $10 fee and we'll make up the difference? Does that sound reasonable? So if you bring a spouse, it'll be $20, you come yourself, it'll be 10, and.
I would defer, what do you ladies think?
Like a good plan.
My vote was whatever brought the most people together for the Christmas party,
Yeah.
because that's what Christmas is family.
Take it
So
down to
not to
5.
segregate or not to have it be different. And if nobody could make it after hours, in hours, I just think that everybody needs to be together for it.
Where's Road and Bridge going? Alpine?
Alpine.
So it's more
That's
expensive.
why it was more
So I think we
expensive
ought to
this
knock
year, yeah.
the pizza things, if we get $5 a head, you want them to come, we can supplement the difference.
About $5 a head, about $5 a head, and we'll pay the balance. And Kelly, you know,
That's what I
whoever
said. Let's do it.
discusses with
Spouses
whoever
too.
yes, spouses too.
Yeah.
And whoever organizes it with Tony's, don't get the lobster, you know what I mean? Make it reasonable, and I think that's perfectly fine. This is what we do, we are a family.
By consent
Talk
then,
about it.
can we consider his motion amended to $5? Further discussion? It's been moved and seconded then that the county help defray the cost of the courthouse Christmas party by paying the balance of the expense of that after each guest is paid $5. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries.
Good plan.
Oh, do you wanna do it, what about a date?
I'd say that's up to you guys.
You guys decide.
Yes, ma'am.
I hate to interrupt, and this is off the Christmas party.
Good, because that's done.
I have, people right now waiting for me.
So you're,
I'm explaining it to them. I have no choice, but I have to leave.
okay.
I'm sorry.
You have to leave right now, or do you want to do your presentation?
No, I have to leave right
Okay.
now.
We're
Will
good.
you be able to come back, or you
We'll
going,
postpone.
oh, you're going out?
No, I have the two boys here.
Those are gentlemen, they're not boys.
I have the two gentlemen here, and you have a list of
Yes.
the conditions.
So you want to leave it on the agenda?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
And I need the county commissioners to approve. The planning commission has voted to move forward to approval of San Isabel propane being on ads. I got you a list of conditions in your packet, and I need you to look over the conditions and either change them or add to them and approve them, and then come back to me.
And what is your recommendation?
Our recommendation is to approve it.
And is there a signed document other than the letter, cover letter? You want that signed today? If
No,
we vote
I'll have to do
that?
it on letterhead
Okay.
stuff.
So you
I just
need-
didn't want it to be messed
And so
up.
we're really just looking at the 13 conditions, is that correct?
Yes, you can add or if you
Alright.
don't like the verbiage.
One quick question. When we're talking about offset, 50 feet, is that from the center of the road? Is that
No,
from
from the
county
property
property?
line.
Property line.
From property line.
And if it's interior property, then that 57 feet from the tank to the, we're okay there?
Yes.
Those were my
The
point of
setbacks
questions.
are all correct and stuff, and included is a new map that,
You got a
they
copy of the
provided.
new map?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, it was the 57 feet to the drive that was my big concern.
okay, thank you, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. We'll leave it on the agenda.
I get it. Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you guys.
Yep. So further public comment? All right. Hearing none, we will move to staff report. Ms. Donna, supplemental budgets. More than one?
6.
6? Not a lot of paperwork for 6 supplemental budgets.
Well, one sheet of paper.
Quick and
Yeah.
she does it.
Yeah, we're gonna look at a document today that has 5 signature pages in it, so apparently that's not the case here.
Kinda,
Oh,
4
oh.
for each, so
Well, I
yeah, so
suppose that's
that's,
right,
yeah.
yeah.
Before I get to the supplemental budgets, I would like to, since we were on Christmas, talk about dedicated service awards, the Christmas bonuses. Usually it goes on the November paycheck. It's every employee, non-elected officials. It's anyone with 6 months or more is 120. 3 months to 5 months is 60. 2 months or less, 30. And part-time employees that are full-time, part-time, 60.
The last one again, part-time.
Part-time, like Carmeline, who's a part-time person forever.
Full-time, all-time,
There.
part-time.
Yeah, full-time, part-time. I know, that's why I said that, like I said, that sounded.
This is the budget?
The caveat to that is that you can only do that if you have saved enough money to pay those out of your regular dollars. quite frankly, I
General
never
fund
did
dollars.
Meaning,
because each budget line, if Mr. Hyde had, 12 employees and it was, times 10, that he had that, and then he would do that.
And if he didn't,
Then he would have to decide.
Decide how.
decide what?
Yeah, if it would be less or non-existent
Okay.
on there. I don't get one because I never have any money in my budget and I can't afford it.
So that's by department?
Yes.
Fund lines.
Mm-hmm.
We've done this each year, have we not?
Since 12/29 of 95.
We did it last
I looked
year.
that number up so I could
Because you knew
answer
I
that
was
question.
gonna ask.
I
I
knew
remember
somebody
doing
would
it
ask that
last
question.
year.
I'm going a long time, but I don't really know how long.
Yeah, I remember doing this.
So do we have a general idea of what the total figure would be?
Well, there's probably 72. I don't right off the top because it would be Kelly if she had 5 full-time people. She would know that it was
But it is by department.
yes,
So,
that it's
And it's by the balances left over. It's not like we're cutting into a fund.
well, I guess that's
It's a,
one of my real
unless
questions.
it's $20,000 and then that's real.
We don't have, we had to find money for the Christmas party.
Right.
This we do not have to find money for.
Right.
This is, if you have money, you can use it.
I believe that when people do their budgets, they pad
They
about
know it.
$500 or what have you to make that happen.
Or they are efficient and they
Yeah.
save some money, that's okay.
And have more.
Well, just to put on the table, I'll go ahead and move that we approve the bonuses based upon the tradition that we've done since 95, can you say? 95, with each department funding it through excess funds that each department has,
Oh,
based upon
second.
the numbers that you just mentioned.
Been moved and seconded to approve the dedicated service bonuses for the county employees. Further discussion? I hate to be ignorant. I was writing as you were speaking and I lost a little bit of the part-time thing. Can you go back to that?
We have probably 4 or 5 employees that are just part-time employees, but there are part-time employees
All
all the
year
time,
round.
full-time.
All
And
right.
so they just get 60. They do qualify, but not for the full, but not for, because they, in theory, they could go to
Still part of the
120 because
workforce.
they're there, or it could go to but they chose the midstream, the half.
I just want to make sure that my motion says not to exceed the numbers you talked about. I'm just having this wild thought that someone may have excess money in their budget and go, well, I think I'm going to give twice that amount to the employee's budget. I think
No, we're
we
limiting
need-
it to
We need the mechanism that, which is consistent.
Maximum
across the board.
120, 60, 30, and 60.
Right, exactly. Okay, I just want to make sure we were
Good.
clear. Tradition.
Yeah.
no problem.
I guess my point, maybe I won't make it very well, is that department heads assume this is going to happen. If there is not excess funds, then do they say, well, I'm just gonna take some money out of my paper budget, I'm gonna take some money out of this budget, that budget, I don't know how that happens as department heads go.
I wouldn't assume to think for them.
No, that's,
I mean, I don't know.
we say, well, if it's excess funds, you can do it. But
That's what we've
as a
said.
department head, I said, well, I've got excess funds, but I've only got enough to do 1/3 of those amounts. I'm gonna find that money somewhere else, so I don't
Or
cheat
Tom,
my employees.
They can redistribute it differently. They don't have to give them $60. They can give them 20.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right?
It's a redistribution.
And I have to pick only these 4 because it is a huge setup to
Right.
do this. So these are,
Tom's point is that they may cut into some other budgetary numbers that they actually will need before the end of the year to supplement the bonuses. That, if I'm reading
Exactly.
correctly.
Yeah, they could do
And
that.
that's a very valid point.
Philosophically, I would be opposed to that. I don't have a problem with dedicated service bonuses it's handled properly. And that, again, we have to put our faith in our department heads to deal with that.
And I do that.
I'm not sure about our process being great. Maybe we should have a dedicated service budget line in each department.
Well, and we've thought about that. I can't put it in payroll, itself, but you know, maybe in 2020 we could drop where the longevity and the
Exactly what I
overtime
was
and the
gonna
SRO
suggest.
money that we could put, you know, like the $700 in there for that, but it cannot be added in the payroll line.
Can I suggest, because I think this is an excellent point, I think what we probably ought to do, and it'll be your decision whether you want to approve it this year or not, but next year's budget, the 2020 budget, because we already approved it in 2019, I think we ought to have a line item called budgets, and we can determine with the county budget whether we will have sufficient money for Christmas bonuses or not. It'll be part of our budgetary discussion. That way we don't have the concerns about, well, are we gonna take it out of new tires for whatever, that we really need the tires, but I don't wanna cheat my employees, so
Now,
I
you
like
said,
it as a.
okay, now
budget
you said a
item.
line item as budget, you mean a line item as bonus. You
Oh,
said the
yes,
word
bonus.
budgets.
In
But
the
you meant
budget, I meant
for
in the
bonus,
budget,
okay.
a line item for bonuses, for Christmas, holiday, whatever name you wanna give it.
I certainly think dedicated
makes sense
service
to
or
me.
whatever, I think that's
That makes sense.
reasonable, and then each department could budget that.
Right, and then we can determine whether we're going to give this budgets across the board.
I hear you. It's an idea. But in my view, bonus, you know, and I've seen it in companies, in the military, and in government, it's an incentive to do that. And it's also you have to have faith in your leadership. And if somebody's gonna game it to that degree, that's nitpicking. I've seen hard times where nobody got a bonus, period, because it really, we had some emergencies come up, and nobody tried to game it during the year and say, well, I've got to give Joe you know, they know it and they take it together, and you're a team.
That's exactly why I feel it should be a budgeted item, because what I'm really concerned about is unfair discrimination, because one department
So
was more frugal and thought about
Okay.
it, and or they didn't think about it ahead of time when they made their budget, and their employees gonna be harmed because they didn't consider this at the time they did their budget. Because a county budget, you go across the board, and I really like the idea of going across the board as opposed to merit in terms of, well, Joe did a great job and Sally didn't do it, so I wanna give more to Joe. That is a disaster waiting to happen. My feeling is a few extra dollars in our employees' pockets to help defray some of the costs
I
of
think it's
Christmas.
good, and you look
makes
forward to
sense.
that. But, if you screw up, you shouldn't get a bonus, period.
I
And
get
that's
it.
how
Then
it
why don't we
works.
call it a Christmas present?
We could do that, but we can discuss that when we do it. I think the issue on the table right now is,
This year.
I think this year, and I think we've got a tradition, we've done it, and we're gonna trust the department heads to, well, you know, they don't have much time to game it from here on out to the end of the year anyway.
No.
Well, and a side note, that I would hate to have the Christmas bonuses be used as leverage at bonus time at budget time.
Exactly.
You know, it's only a 1%,
Exactly.
so then we're removing that, and so that's the only reason that we have never put it there, because that would be a leverage. We're doing no percent and no bonuses. Gosh, man, it's January 1st and we already are like, ugh. And so, yeah, so there is no right or wrong, but that was why that it's never been in there, because that would be a leverage as in the budget
Takes the
process.
subjectiveness out of it if we put it as a budget item.
True.
It's in there, you get it, we move on, other than, so.
But I agree with Commissioner Canada, there is something about the word bonus here. If you say, well, we're gonna do it this year because we've always done it, that to me is ignorant thinking, if it's tied to the budget, because you can't tell me since 1995 the budgets have been exactly the same.
That's right,
We
yeah.
were over budget this year, so, but yet we still have money in the budget for bonuses. I don't know how that works. In the corporate world, that doesn't work.
But if we have done this for 18 years, 28 years, however many years it is between now and then, okay, our employees are anticipating it, expecting it. I think it would be remiss for us to say, we're throwing that out the window today because, you know, it's, just because we've done there, I agree with you. What we've done in the past does not dictate what we do in the future. However, this is just slid across. I feel it needs to be in there for this year, and we need to better manage it for next year.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm talking 2020, because we've already discussed 2019.
Yeah, I agree. My take on, just because we've always done it is not a legitimate reason to do it. That doesn't mean I'm against this, it means I'm against that thinking.
Process.
And I don't disagree with that, except it's anticipatory by our employees, and I think it would be remiss for us to not do it unless there was some major crunch in our budget to say, oops, we just can't do it this year because we have this other item we need. It seems to me like we ought to do it.
Yeah, I would feel a whole lot more comfortable if we knew what kind of money we're talking about here, but that's on the department heads to provide that for 2020.
Right.
Live and learn. So, I mean, we could be talking 120 times 80 employees.
Right, could be a lot.
So,
So a question you just don't have, are you aware of any department in the previous 15 years that has not been able to?
Everyone is, all the bosses have always
Everybody
taken
has
care of their
always made
employees,
it, okay.
every
So,
single time.
I mean,
okay, further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, very good.
good.
We can take a simple matter and make it complicated, but
That's our job.
wait till we get supplemental budgets.
It's gonna be easy, Donna, have some faith.
We're gonna need a week to work on this.
Yeah.
And, they're real basic, there are 6 of them. The first one, I won't read them, I will just give you kind of an overview.
Yeah.
It is the capital improvement fund, it is the Westcliff land acquisition, to get it on the books. So it's other financing sources and the money, and so, I will add that revenue in it to the,
And for our audience's sake, let me just say, we're talking about some resolutions here.
Yes.
This has to be done by resolution to amend the budget.
correct.
Okay, go ahead. So that's one.
The second is, the purchase of the road and bridge, water trucks that was unanticipated.
It was a lease purchase. correct?
Purchase, and so that it's other financing sources again, and it's the water truck acquisition. Pretty straightforward on those. The road and bridge, since we had to make a payment that was not, that we did not have funds for, it's not that we had them, but we had to use the fund balance. So the revenue source is the road and bridge fund balance,
Payment for,
the road and bridge, water trucks, and it was the down payment for the lease purchase.
oh, down payment. The other is the
To put it on the books. that
That's
we had
It's the lease.
yeah. So the first one was to get it into our system,
Right into the
and the second one is to make
assets,
for the
yes.
down payment. Okay.
The next one is good news kind. It was the HUTF additional monies for the Senate Bill 18001. It was an additional over 200,000, and so I'm adding that to the revenue source, and we spent out in asphalt, oil, and servicing.
Exactly 200.
It was $215,369.43 on that one.
2019, 2018.
Now,
This was a 2018 windfall from HUTF.
So it's not, we're not receiving that in 2019.
No, this is a, 2019 will actually be 70,000. Is what they're anticipating. We're not counting on that because this was a cool thing. This is the bummer kind. For whatever reason, the state, they used to deposit all the money and do the different things in search and rescue, receive checks. Well, this year they've decided to pass it through the county again, which it's no big deal, it's just a check, it's a deposit, except I'm showing my expenditures as 10,000 more because this wasn't any money that had been budgeted. So I'm putting a revenue source as the state of Colorado search and rescue pass-through money, and the general fund, it was paid, reimbursed search and rescue for that same 10,000. Just so we're not overspending. And the last one, it's 3 on 1, 3 different items, but it's the airport fund. And the revenue source were donations from OT6 Ranch, Ambogo Energy, and Ambogo Aviation, which are all OT6. The total of those 3 donations were $36,000. So in essence, the airport fund was increased by $36,000. Part was paid for runway analysis, part was paid for a fuel upgrade, and the last was runway improvement designs for a total of $36,000 in and out.
Okay. Do you want to, go ahead, sir.
Can I have a question on the 36,000? I thought we had tourism pay for the runway testing.
Not all of it,
These
7,000.
are just the odds, because our budget did not have these allocations listed, so I put the donations in, and then we've expended the money that's increased it and expended
Yeah, I
it.
understand that it's
on there.
zero gain, but I was under the impression that
I believe that something was like $12,245. I'm showing the fuel upgrade system is $3,500, which was OT6
Okay.
donation
So they have to
towards that.
Right.
I'm good.
And, but they were, when you see it, you'll say, okay, they're, because they have to be
Okay.
offsetting items, but you're correct, the prices were
We
different.
shared them.
These are,
That's fine.
but these are what we received.
Resolution numbers, I see you don't have those.
And I did not ask for those because I never know of when it would be in,
Right.
so when you would get like 20, 21, 22, 23, sign them, and
20's the next one.
20? Okay, I was thinking it was 19, but.
So you need 6 separate resolutions, is what you're looking at?
yes, and I do have, and I don't know who gets them first. Do you put the numbers on, or do they sign? I'm not.
You're pretty confident 20's the next one?
Yeah,
I'll go ahead-
because we
I'll go ahead and
changed
move.
1818 to 1819.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the 6 amendments to the budget, resolution numbers to be determined by the county. And I'll just leave it at that,
I'll
for
second.
2019.
Approve all these resolutions.
Yes.
Yes.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 6 resolutions for the supplemental budget requests. I believe that'd be 20 through 25, 18-20 through 25.
Good.
Discussion?
Can I-
Cindy's got a
Go ahead.
Just Donna, we were told by DOLA the year-end SAR award is going to remain in the approximately $10,000 a year, so it might be something you want to put on the revenue side for next year.
I'm hoping that they get it squared away, that it just is a check again. I mean,
Well-
it was, for years it was that way, and I'm not sure. But it could be, we had actually 2 checks for SAR, one was $400
Yeah.
and something, but I would rather maybe not put 20,000 and have none, or back and forth, because at the end of the year I can have 35 or 40,000, depending on how many missions there were, and then I would just do an offsetting, booking entry
So-
resolution to pass them. I'm hoping it goes away.
I kind of think the state's moving to everything
On
electronically.
there. Well, I know.
No, I'm not quite,
Well,
yeah, I am Christy Finger here, but not
Okay,
throwing.
well, the discussion is on whether or not to approve these motions. I don't mean to be rude and obnoxious, but, if it, and actually, there's no no public discussion allowed on this because it's not an agenda item, under new business. But, no, that's fine. I allowed it, no problem. Any further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving resolutions 18-20 through -25 for the supplemental budgets requests, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. I guess we would let, if it
Yeah,
doesn't matter,
I know there's so many that,
you can number them and then we can sign them, or, because you record those, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
and then when I bring the budget in, on whichever day that is, December 4th or 5th, I will have additional certification of levies and the others, and probably a few last minute items on supplementals to.
Borrow your pen, Tom.
Thank you for bringing the dedicated service to the table too, appreciate that. Yeah.
Thanks for letting them have their bonuses.
Yeah, as a finance officer, I would ask maybe January, February, we talk about this again. so we can formalize what we discussed today. I'll forget, I can guarantee you that. All right, thank you, ma'am, appreciate it. Yep.
Donna?
So our next staff report obviously was planning and zoning with Jackie Hobby, who had to leave. So gentlemen, you are welcome to come forward. We're going to finish signing these documents real quick, but certainly come up. You can bring a chair, 1, 2, up to you guys. Okay. Good morning, thank you for your patience. Appreciate it.
How are you, sir?
I get to sit. Don't forget our esteemed counselor.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Terry Napolitan. Very nice meeting you.
Easy to overlook.
Don't make more than 6.
If you don't mind, sir, we can talk and do this, or I just don't want you to feel like we're
No, whatever you need to do.
being distracted. If we get this done now, then we'll have it.
I'm good.
Play in the car.
No problem.
And just gentlemen, so you know, I did set in on the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that dealt with this issue that's before us. So, been a lot of time and effort, work, site tours, and language change, and so on and so forth, maps, and
I read the 13 conditions.
yep. So that's really what we're here to talk about today, right? Are the 13 conditions, which, that's it, sir. Can you check all 3?
That's all I got.
Thank you. So I'm not going to find it in November 2nd in the packet.
Six-foot fence big enough to keep the deer out?
We're gonna put an 8-foot fence in. The state requires that.
My only concern was, and it's addressed in number 4, I just wanted to make sure that the fire protection district was comfortable with this, and where it says that the permit will not be granted until they say that it's acceptable. So I'm good with this. Someone wants to make a motion on.
We were told that the county required a 10,000 gallon storage with a dry hydrant for the fire department.
Good.
It'll be a metal underground tank.
You're gonna put an 8-foot fence?
Yes, sir.
And obviously, gentlemen, this is a modification of an existing SUP. Now, it was originally started out as a new SUP, and then we realized, no, this needs to be modified. So, again, I asked my question about the 50-foot setback. On my particular concern was on the map, the 57 feet from the private driveway over to the tank. And it is to the physical tank, not to the fencing, not to the barricades, whether those are metal, concrete, dirt, whatever they are.
How big a tank is that, 18,000?
18,000, yes, sir.
Has there been any conversation with the private owner? The private owner that's 57 feet away?
That's Alliance's private owner.
So, yeah, and I meant to also say the SUP is actually Ed's, your business has the SUP, you're modifying it, correct? So the SUP is in Ed's business's name, and they're just working together. So, it's not your propane company's SUP.
No,
That's what
no,
I'm
it's
trying to
Alliance.
get at. Okay, I would move that we approve the modified SUP for deadline.
Your turn.
Okay, I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the modified SUP for Ed Lyons property, doing business with and as San Isabel Propane. This is a staff report, so we would not take comment from the public, but certainly discussion is appropriate for the
Seems like this was researched well. All parties were in agreement. I see no reason not to approve this.
Same here.
There was a question about the orientation of the tank. Originally, it was supposed to be east and west. They've reviewed that requirement, right?
The way it's said is it's southeast and northwest.
Okay.
It's facing the valley as much as we can, and that's based on the valley going north and south.
Okay. And that's what that was all about, was so that we didn't see this big, long side of a propane tank when you're in town looking that way.
No, it was more about safety with the end caps.
Okay.
You know, are designed to pop off if there's a major thing. That's why they had them set that way originally, and then for us it works better to have.
I was gonna say, which wouldn't fit in every application,
Exactly.
typically, would it?
So they changed that on, changed that.
And that was the fire department.
And a lot of it is the proximity of buildings close to the tanks and that sort of stuff too. You look at Mr. Seifert's, they've gotta go there because there's buildings all around it.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter which way you place them, and in the history of propane, there's only been one instance of a major propane tank exploding like that. And that was over in Utah in 1957 when a transport gasoline aviation fuel truck ran off the freeway, landed underneath a propane tank and exploded.
Oh,
And,
So it wasn't the propane tank's fault.
no, it wasn't a propane tank, exactly. And the propane tanks have high pressure valve releases on them. But the fire department could not cool the tank because of the aviation fuel enough, and the propane tank end caps, the tank doesn't explode, the end caps blow out. Yeah, exactly. So, and my feeling is if we would try putting it out in, you've already got 120,000 gallons of propane in a city block area. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get out of the area.
Okay. And then just for clarification, are you within the city limits or outside of Silver Cliff?
Outside.
Outside the city limits, yes, sir.
Which is pretty obvious, that's why you're here and not at Silver Cliff Town Hall at their meeting, but.
And this is just the first step, because we also now have to get approval from the state to put this tank out. So, that's,
Okay, further comments or questions from either one of you gentlemen? Okay,
will the county require a copy of the acceptance of the permit from the state?
I would guess probably to record that, huh?
What do you think, Kelly?
Jackie, it would go to
I
Jackie.
was gonna say,
but
like, go to Jackie.
I would
Okay.
think we probably should.
I'll make that.
Okay, you'll follow up with
Just,
her.
you know,
Well, that kinda hits on.
too much
all
information
state
is better than
guidelines.
not enough information.
Yeah, okay, good. Further discussion, gentlemen? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the modified SUP for Ed Lyons, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. Well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy.
So we move forward.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, nice to see you.
Good job.
Yep, thank you. Kelly?
Ed, thank you. Let's see where we're at real quick.
Everyone?
No, we got more to do here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do this, and I would suggest, or give you my justification. We were thinking about taking a break, but I think we'll go ahead and do this recognition, then we'll take a break because we've dropped an item on the agenda, and then we're opening bid letters.
That's good.
So let's do that. With that being said, Miss Christie, with only one eye, because I've been trying to communicate to you with two eyes, and that doesn't work.
I am, or I can, I'm Christ with an E.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you want to send her an email, make sure her first name only has one I in it. Welcome, thanks for being here.
Well, I don't know how you want me to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Where's our official photographer?
Well, I can.
Yeah, we have a couple official, we have one official photography, but several cameras, so let us get organized.
Oh, sure. Yes,
No problem.
Attention to orders.
So,
You're saying the middle there.
just quickly, I guess, before we generally we've done this with a little PowerPoint presentation. So just imagine the hurricane destruction That's mostly what it is. But this is a long time coming, so I apologize for the late. It took a while to get schedules synced and get this together. But we have honored the staff. When I say we, DHSEM, so State Emergency Management. Everyone who went to deploy to Hurricane Irma in September 2017. Oh my gosh. Yeah, September 17. And this was an EMAC deployment, so Emergency Management Assistance Compact, and that is when a state requests assistance from another state to help once they've exceeded their their capabilities to respond. So the call goes out from one state to the next, and we're expecting one from California anytime. We haven't yet had that. And then when that happens, our state office puts out a call to all of the local responders that have certain training that they're looking for. Sometimes they're looking for people with public information skills, damage assessment skills, emergency operations skills, firefighting skills specifically, or all kinds. I mean, you go on and on. But they're can be pretty specific on those. So when that call came out from Florida before Hurricane Irma, this was kind of ahead of time to, we know this is going to be bad. It's the weather's lining up really bad. It was at 4 when it hit land initially. So we put the call out to all of the folks that we knew had gone through the Emergency Management Academy. They were specifically looking for EOC type of work, and that's what emergency managers do. So Cindy was able to go, and that is a big thank you to the county for supporting that, because when the state answers those calls for request, it's not the state's employees that are going. We're reaching out to the counties and saying, hey, would you be able to support your employee going to this other state on this deployment to help out during their time of need? That would be reciprocated, and it has been for Colorado. The last time we had an EMAC deployment to Colorado was in the 2013 floods, when we had 15 counties that declared states of emergency. So so it's a reciprocation. So anyway, a big thank you to Custer County for supporting their employees going on this deployment and helping out in another state during their time of need. And then for Cindy, this is a certificate from the state recognizing your the time that you served in the Irma on that deployment. And then this one is actually on behalf of the Florida Keys, making Cindy an honorary conch.
Oh, wow!
It's actually, I'll read this because it's pretty cool. Cindy Howard, to be a clear-thinking, kind, kindred soul, eminently worthy to be an honorary conch and citizen of the fabulous Florida Keys, and as such entitled from this day forward to enjoy the fullest and bountiful pleasures and privileges so lavishly bestowed upon the Florida Keys by nature, and so artfully supplemented by the works of man. Pure, smog-free, pollen-free, never-chilled air, superb fishing from bridges, beaches, or boats, unparalleled swimming and frolicking in crystal waters of the Atlantic or the Gulf of Mexico, gourmet dining on such delicatessens as Florida key lobster, shrimp, green turtle steak, and key lime pie, and wriggling the toes in the warm sand, and the rest, as the rest of the world hurries by, and most important, acceptance by the world's friendliest people. This shall be the prerogative of their honorary conch, and let no man interfere with the pursuit thereof. Know ye then, and even though it is by adoption the above of henceforth and forward more one of us.
There you go.
Holy congratulations have written that.
So the last 3 words you written, one of us.
Hold your other certificate up too.
Does that mean everything is free for her down there?
I think we never got to
Hold your other
that. did
certificate
we?
up so she can get it.
I think the tourism board in Monroe County had some.
I think so too.
So I don't know about you, but I know what that means to us. Now we have a lifetime supply of conch salad and conch sandwiches.
And green turtle soup.
Yeah, I'll pass on the green turtle, but
It beats MREs any day.
Eating MREs, and the pictures that we have show it's really a challenge. You know, there were times Well, from the time we got there, we were there before the hurricane hit. The evacuation orders had already been met. We brought MREs, and that's all we had to eat. The grocery store shelves were bare. We couldn't get fuel. That was really challenging, and that actually goes to the preparedness piece on the local level, because we had to seek out the fuel stations that had reserved their fuel for responder vehicles only. Otherwise, you're flat, and so it's a lot of preparedness and a lot of work.
It was interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How long were you down there?
Just about 2 weeks, all together.
Moved around, or you were in one location?
No, we flew into Tallahassee.
Flew into Tallahassee. We
Set
stayed
up
the
a
first night in
shelter.
a
Yeah,
arena.
we built a shelter and stayed at the shelter the first night. Then the next day we drove to Orlando.
Yeah, we were in the logistics warehouse for the state.
Slept on the floor in the warehouse.
And we were there when the eye of the hurricane
Yeah,
went over.
yeah.
In the
Christy and I
warehouse.
watched sat and watched. That was very interesting.
Slept under desks that night.
Yeah, drove into Orlando on the freeways, and there were 2 other cars besides our convoy in the freeways.
Wow.
And then we drove down on September 11th.
Stayed
We
in a
spent
fire
the
station
night
that
in Miami-Dade Fire Station on 9/11, and they had a piece of the World Trade Center there. And then the next day, when the Army Corps cleared the bridges, we drove on down into the Keys and arrived. First visit to the Keys.
Stayed on the Keys then for the
stayed
majority
in
of the time.
the Monroe County Emergency
Operations
Center
under desks
on
again.
wherever we could pull up the.
So a really fancy trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
With your toes in the sand.
Yeah, and then
No, there was sea lice, so we couldn't do that.
No.
I ended up working in the Key Largo Emergency
Yeah.
Operations Center, so then we split up, and that's why I decided to wear my Key
Oh,
Largo
I should have worn my
shirt
Key
today.
West one.
So yeah, Christy made it to Key West, and then we all ended up back in Monroe County at the
EOC for the county EOC. So yeah, we went to city EOCs first and then migrated back to the county EOC. In Key West, that was an interesting, because the power was out everywhere. So we're staying in a hotel with no power, and it's closed to the public, but they let responders in there. And that's kind of creepy, being in this big hotel and out of your flashlights and no water, it's just a bed to sleep in basically. But we were thankful. It was better than under the desk, and that's where we've been.
Well,
It was an
congratulations.
experience.
No bet.
And you can never learn as much, all the training that we do to, all the classes that we go to, but when you go deploy on somebody else's bad day, and you see so many things that, oh dang, I need to come back and we need to do this and we need to work on this, and I haven't even thought about that before, then you come back and you just have that experience. So it's super beneficial for them and for the people that go.
Well, congratulations. Thank you for making this happen today. That's nice. Recognition's never given out enough, so appreciate that. Thank you.
And we have the local ones too, like the spring fire. So it's a little different. It wasn't an EMAC, but the spring, that's the neighbor helping neighbor concept, and that's super important, and just as important, if not more so, than going state to state is helping your neighbors. So appreciate this work from the county.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, man.
You might get elk before you get conked though for
Well, no. We're tired. We're tired. We want
Press, they just
we
came
want
out
comp.
today.
Oh, we're
I'm
trying
just
to
let's give you guys these for some nighttime reading.
Good job.
It's hot off the press this morning, so I thought, perfect timing to bring these in.
All right. Well, thank you, Christy. Appreciate you
thank
being
you.
here. Thanks for all your work. If there are no objections, gentlemen, I would stand in recess for about 5 minutes.
Good deal.
I don't know anything about fermenting foods. I decided that's part of
Apparently, Counselor already went on break. He's gone.
He wasn't waiting.
No, he wasn't waiting. Show up late and leave early. That's good. Good morning, Trey. How you
How's it
doing,
going?
buddy?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Doing all right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Good. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. Doing good.
Hello.
How you doing, sister?
They haven't been
Hang
open
it in
yet.
there. Trying to get some more coffee.
Oh.
You make some more?
No, it's
No.
so they're doing for other agenda. It is Who's down the list? Well, I don't know.
It's gonna happen pretty quick.
Okay. I know the only other bid wasn't being hand, so. It's us and headlines, and headlines came in 5-7, so we'll see how that plays out. Yeah.
Did you get another one? I did. They were very appreciative, old bunch.
Sure. Okay.
It's okay. Just another day. Lighten up.
all the Reese's?
No, here, take one. Take two. I did. I haven't had one for years.
Sure.
Here.
Dude,
Okay.
I'll bet she's got some.
Bye. Alright, Ruby.
Very kind. Jason,
How are you?
haven't seen you in forever.
Shoot, it's been the busiest year.
Good to see you.
You know I'm a millennial, and as a millennial, I haven't experienced a good economy ever in my adult life. This is amazing.
Dude, that sucks.
No, it's amazing.
But now, it's good. Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, and slammed at work.
Well, it won't last long.
Historically, the best year we've ever had.
Yeah.
Try to call you.
Well, and I started calling you
Real fast.
West Custer County's always seems to be on a
Well, then I
one-year
guess your call.
Well, maybe.
They're always a year behind catching up and a year ahead of.
Double taxes, yeah. Everything, it's gonna be a bad deal.
How about them bringing that thing? Great fire laws.
Oh, yeah, that's great. It has worked so well also.
I know that
You know,
guy in
people
New Jersey's
just
already
come
been.
in and shoot me, you know? Yep,
Again, but New Jersey was already shot over it.
yep. Yeah, it's such a good idea. If I don't like you, I'll just call you in. Call in and say, hey, you know what? He's unstable. Or maybe they'll just look at your Facebook page and go, he's unstable.
Exactly.
He should have.
You want me to give them to you?
And we're gonna have
He's
three
gone,
men,
he'll never know.
4
It'll be our little secret.
criminals. Just like Boulder.
As soon as he comes in and says, where's my peanut butter cup?
Well,
Bad.
that's already.
I won't say a word.
Registration.
Trust me.
You know,
I'm good.
it'll
I'll
be
leave
like,
the Tootsie
it'll be
Roll.
like Boulder is
Big
now.
bar.
Like you're reading cookie.
This is my breakfast.
Your bread.
I don't
Bill
know.
Clint was trying to steal your peanut butter cup.
No way! No way!
They don't know what you got.
They didn't get away with murder. He's trying to take the peanut butter cup. He
Supposed
came
to.
late.
No, that's ridiculous.
Well, I don't have any anymore, you know. We had to sell them all.
That's ridiculous. Can't come late, you rob somebody's snack.
I gave you a shot of hot coffee there, Bill.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that. Top it on. Keep me through the rest of the day. Got a meeting.
Well, I brought a snack bar, now I can't find it.
Because Clint got to it. Clint found it.
I just forgotten it were in there until I saw yours.
This is my breakfast. I refilled the peanut butter cups. There
She-
you go,
I told you
Clint.
she had some.
Sure.
Oh,
Now I
man.
got
You took
Tootsie Rolls.
Tootsie.
You know, take
Darn,
me,
you're gonna have to eat Tootsie Rolls and peanut
it'll
butter
take me
cups.
30 minutes just to
Let's
chew
bring-
this up.
We're good.
Don't have the guys here.
Thank you.
Meeting will come back to order. Again, we deleted or postponed the road name change on for Rice Road on that subdivision until November 30th. So our next item is opening the airport RFP bids. We would probably give those to council.
Sure.
Well, take your time.
Just 2?
That's all I have.
And so, for the record, these bids were submitted to the county for to compete for the bid to move the earthen berm on the south side of the airport and then reslope the south end of the airport.
Right.
I'm stalling as long as I
Yeah,
can.
take time, cause I'm still snacking myself.
Remove the berm on which side?
On the east side, and then re-slope the south end.
Hey, Brenda, call Donna and make sure they didn't turn that one. There were 3 contractors.
I was gonna bring a letter over there, Counselor, and I forgot.
Find out if there's one over there.
I normally have a knife.
You want me to
Pinch anything here.
Just a pin you can slide under it, maybe.
He said to ask you if there was another bid over there for the airport.
And the cubic yards again was
27,000, basically, a little more.
Mm-hmm.
27,
Mhm.
25-1. 25-1.
Or 25 one.
Right.
27, that's
Right.
where I got that. 25.
Okay. 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 Right. Okay. Thanks. Bye. Are you talking about Freddie White? Yeah, she doesn't have anything, but she was here and it was locked over there, so she didn't know if you could like call him and ask him if you.
You need a number? You got his number?
Are you missing
My
what you're
phone,
expecting?
yeah, there was 3 bidders, and he came over when she was over here.
Got it.
So
Maybe.
we don't know.
We don't know.
We'll call him and find out. Fred White.
371-5075.
What was the deadline?
10 a.m.
o'clock today, and they were over. We were talking.
That's fine.
So, Counselor, if you did not
Hey,
hear,
Freddie.
we're waiting to find out
This
if
is Brenda,
there was a
Commissioner's office.
snafu on the 3rd bid.
Hey, were you trying to put in a bid for that airport RFP? 10 a.m.? If you could can you bring that by?
We could have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry to tell you. I don't know who
Yeah,
she's talking
okay.
to.
I don't know either.
It's in our process.
Okay, thank you. Bye. He said that Jonna was supposed to bring it in.
Somebody said she was here.
So she
Did,
might.
did Donna Hobby say she was here or no?
She didn't say.
She didn't say.
Donna does not have the bid. Okay, we'll move forward. Thank you.
Oh, do you want him to bring it by or
No, if the deadline was 10 o'clock,
Tell me that.
I would certainly entertain a discussion if they had tried to get it to her office and she wasn't there.
Right,
It
that's
doesn't
what I
sound
was
like
asking.
that
Well,
was the case.
we'll see.
She had a note on her door.
Yeah.
Well, not initially though, I don't think. Cause she
We
she
need to
came
find
here
out
and
if
then
she
she
came
left
or
and
not
went back.
before
Would
we
you
did.
call him again and ask if she had tried to bring it to Donna's office and so what time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he asked me what time.
Yeah, that's,
We'll just
An
ask
hour
when
ago.
Jonna was there.
You're fixing to lose those peanut butter cups, dude. After all my hard work getting them.
you can't keep track of them, Counselor.
Right.
Hey,
I'll lose all this
Yeah.
paperwork before I do Tootsie
Bring
Roll.
it by
And I had to get rid of the Tootsie Roll I had because I thought I was ready to talk.
And that's what took so long with the
Oh,
Tootsie Roll. If
well,
anything
if you
else,
tried to
just
bring it by earlier,
masticate it
I
and
think
swallow,
they're
but
just
not with the
saying
Tootsie
that
Roll. You gotta work those over.
deadline, so.
I mean, you could swallow it,
Okay,
Yeah,
down in the lump.
hang up in there.
okay,
But we do have CPR.
okay, sounds good, thanks. Bye-bye.
I do.
He doesn't know.
Okay, all right, we'll move forward then, Counselor, whenever you're ready, sir.
We just have 2 bids.
Yeah, could you tell us now, first of all, who the 2 bids are from?
This bid is Mountain Valley Excavating, Ed Lyons.
Okay.
And I haven't even opened the other.
Oh, okay.
I opened it, but I didn't take the paperwork out.
Cypress Enterprises, probably.
I think he's ready.
Yeah, maybe.
I got
Good
another
grief,
one.
another one?
Can you rip that open for me? I just
It's a sealed bid.
Close your eyes while you do it, because nobody can look at it. So.
Nobody can look at it.
Give Clint that honor.
How about if I pull out my trusty knife?
There you go.
Did you read the first one?
No, rather than.
Just told us who.
I went
drum
to-
roll
I
still-
went to check
still going
and see
on.
if the other bid was in my office, because sometimes when they think I'm gone, they drop them off there, but she didn't.
There you are, sir, and I didn't look.
Yeah, you looked at the top.
I didn't. Really.
Okay, and this one is from Seifert's Trucking. So I'll start with the first one. It's a form that Armstrong used. I'm not going to read the whole form, but they did say the bidders are to submit pages 1 through 5 of this form with their bid. And it sets forth the terms that are how bids are supposed to be submitted. But this particular bid,
This Ed's?
and this is the one from Ed Lyons, under, well, maybe I ought to read the whole thing. This is,
Obviously, you've not seen these documents before, so.
the undersigned bidder, having examined the plans, specifications, and other contract documents as designated and all addenda thereto, having investigated the location of and conditions affecting the proposed work, and being acquainted with and fully understanding the extent and character of the work covered by this proposal, and all factors and conditions affecting or which may be affected by the work, hereby proposes, pursuant to the invitation for bids published November 8 and 9, 2018, to furnish all required materials, tools, equipment, and plant to perform all necessary labor and superintendence, and to undertake and complete the work required for Silver West Airport in West Cliff, Colorado, in full accordance with plans, specifications, and contract documents hereto attached or by reference made a part thereof at and for the following prices. And then under says bid schedule, unit prices are to be handwritten or typed in both words and figures. In case of discrepancy, the amount shown in words will govern. Okay, runway, this is schedule 1. Runway safety area improvements. Item 1, mobilization, 12,000 per, this is one lump sum, 12,000 lump sum, and he has the numbers written and the words
$12,000 here?
per, $12,000 per lump sum for mobilization. And then under unclassified excavation, $3.40 a cubic yard, $85,000, $85,340. So the total bid.
What was the cubic yard again? $3.40?
$3.40 per cubic yard, okay, for a total of, and that's 25,100 cubic yards. I should have read that. 25,100 cubic yards. So at $3.40 per cubic yard, $85,340 for a combined total of $97,340. And he also submits a check in the amount of $4,867 made payable to Custer County. And this is a check drawn on First State Bank of Colorado. And it says, enclosed herewith is a bid security as defined in the attached instructions to bidders in the amount of $4,867, which bid security the undersigned bidder agrees is to be paid to and become the property of the owner as liquidated damages and not as a penalty for the delay and extra work caused hereby should the bidder prevent an award as defined in the instructions to bidders, or should the proposal be accepted and contract awarded and he fails to enter into agreement in the form prescribed, and to furnish the required proofs of insurance and bonds within 15 days as stipulated.
Okay.
see what else is. And the signature of the bidder, and this is actually dated November 14, 8 a.m. Mountain Valley Excavating by Ed Lyons, doing business as Mountain Valley Excavating, and his address and phone number. And that's the extent of the bid on this one.
I'm assuming your 4,800 gets split 3 ways. It's nice.
I told them to make it pay.
That's for girls' bonuses in the courthouse.
And since the next bid is, it's the same format, so I'm not going to read all of that introductory language. This is the bid from Seifert. I think the name is Seifert Trucking. Let's see if that's how they put it here. Seifert Enterprises, LLC. Okay. The bid for mobilization is $8,000. That's an even figure. And for 25,100 cubic yards of excavation at $2.50 per cubic yard, that's $62,750. And the total combined is $70,750.
$70,750.
$70,750. And they submit a bid security in the amount of check in the amount of $3,537.50.
One more time, sir, on the bid security.
3,000. Make sure I read that right. $3,537.50.
Thank you.
This is dated November 14, 2018, 8:37 a.m. Seifert Enterprises by Kent Beach, managing member. The address and phone number.
Okay, thank you, sir.
There's the check. Also on First State Bank of Colorado, Seifert Trucking account for that amount, $3,537.50.
Okay.
So the total with the 8,000 would be 78,700.
No, it was 62,700.
Oh, wait a minute, you're right. Got it.
77.
Yeah, 62,750 and then 8,000.
Okay.
Okay, and just for a point of clarification, Mr. Coleman, you were here representing Seifert Enterprises? Okay, and you're representing Mountain Valley, okay. So, Counselor, in your opinion, both bids are appropriate and eligible for consideration?
Yes, they're both in proper form. They're on the form that Armstrong used handling this for us.
Okay.
And both bids appear to be proper and accompanied with all the proper documentation.
All right, thank you, sir. I'd like to ask Commissioner Canada a question before we proceed, if we may. Irregardless of what these amounts were, let's go back and revisit the process a little bit with OT6's participation. So the understanding or the agreement with OT6 would be what, as far as this project goes?
It is, they understand that we couldn't do it for the reasons we've talked about before, and that we were going to do our best to put this out on a bid process to get the maximum participation we could, to get the best price we could for us and them. And I gave them not indication, told them what we thought we could do it for. We cannot and could not supply the fuel. We've talked about that before, because that was part of the thing, and they understood that. And we're ready to sign up for whatever this is going to be, because they wanted it yesterday, and that for whatever it was to be, I gave them a price range between $65,000 to $100,000. So they've had that discussion with them. They're ready to go with that, and so looks good to me. And I would say congratulations is in order for Seifert. And Ed, thank you for participating.
Well, we haven't voted on.
I know,
the
but
bid
I'm just saying,
yet,
that's,
so-
I'm just
Not
giving
ready
it.
to say that quite so quickly,
But,
obviously.
so, from a funding point of view, they always have the option right now, they're gonna review it, right, as you would in any case, and fund it.
Just for my clarification, the entire amount will be paid by August 6th?
Yep.
Okay, I knew that, I just want to make it on the record.
I'm not sure I understood that completely, so.
And I have a question about the bids, just altogether, just to make sure I'm clear. The bid is the accepted price, there'll be no additional fees on anybody who bid for fuel.
Fuel, labor, equipment.
Right, and, there is
So
a.
if we wrote the check, let me just
Go
wait.
ahead.
So we wrote the check today to either company, that we don't have to worry about another penny being billed for unforeseen rock structures underneath the berm they're gonna move, and who knows what else. This is the begin to end, final fee, this is the cost, no matter what they find and what happens, is that right?
Correct.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're on fair playing field,
And they understood.
that, Cypher, this is a very significant difference between the two. And I just want to make sure that the lower bid can't come back and say, yeah, but I need 20,000 more to do X, Y, and Z, which would make it basically the same as the second bid. I just want to make sure that I'm clear. It's a finish to end total deal, which you agree with?
I mean, that bid is based off the plan set.
Okay.
What's in that plan
Which is
set
all
is
you
what
can
we
do.
agreed to do.
That's all you can do.
And,
Anything above and
just so
beyond.
you know,
So does that include cross conditions
that
and
plan,
all that?
that's right, that plan set included that estate, they knew exactly what the cut is, they knew exactly how much it was, and they also,
I just
in
don't
our
want a
considered.
surprise at the end. That's
I just
all
wanna
I'm
make sure
worried
we're on
about.
the record, the whole way. There was, concerns about the frost, and the fact is, none of the fill is gonna be used to build on, so that was discussed, and that wasn't an issue. Unforeseen weather, we had a provision in there that said we gave them 3 weeks to complete it, and, unless there's weather that prevents it.
Who makes that determination?
Us. And we can, it depends on, what it is. You gotta cross that bridge as you come, like in any contract.
It's laid out in there,
Yeah.
it's 6 hours a day of unworkable time.
And they get penalized if they miss it, $500 a day.
Okay, well, based on the information I received, I move that we accept a little bit. Thank Valley for making your bid. Really appreciate it, very significant. Cypher, congratulations.
Again, we haven't voted on it
We
yet,
haven't voted,
so.
but that was my motion.
But he's
Let me
discussing it.
rephrase my
Well,
motion. I move that we accept the lowest bid.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Appreciate that.
I'm sorry, you're right, I got carried away.
Been moved and seconded to accept the low
So did
bid
I,
on the
just so.
airport, excavation project. Low bid was submitted by Safford Enterprises. Discussion. I do have a little discussion. It's more, I guess, this point anyways, about the process. I think in the future, if we are gonna sit here and make these decisions, I think we need to see the bid plans in advance. The commissioners need to look at those.
Well, I'll argue with you a little bit,
Okay.
because that's why you all appointed me as the program manager, and that's how the process normally goes.
Okay.
And we can, it was held with the engineering expertise in hand. Would have been, if we can do that as a process, if we want to do it from that point of view, that's great. But it's
If I can comment on this, put my 2 cents in. On this particular project, I'm not gonna say on any future projects, we're really doing this for the benefit of a third party. They're the ones who have approved what we're doing. They agreed with what the project is. So I'm very comfortable if they're okay with it, and if our representative is okay with it, since it's really their project, we're just intervening.
Yeah, if you look at that,
I'm okay
in
with
that
the way it
light,
is.
they could have just donated the contract and said, we're gonna go do it. And we could have, that's what we argued, said, well, is it for our benefit or not? And we would look at the process, we'd say, who's the contractor?
Now, just on the other side of the flip side, if it's a project that we're initiating that is for our benefit, that we're responsible for, then I would absolutely agree with you.
That's right, it's a different story.
But in this particular case, since it's their project, we're just kind of the conduit, I have no issue with this.
Yeah, I don't agree. I feel differently. I think if we're, from the business standpoint, I agree 100%, Commissioner Kanda, about you being the representative from the board. I'm asking for additional documentation prior to a vote, similar to today. I'd like to have been able to read through the bid plans, so if nothing else, I have an understanding on what we're asking the competitive bidders to submit their bid on. I don't like sitting here not having any clue about the requirements of this or any other particular project. I'll be the same way if we build a justice center. Just don't feel comfortable in
different animal completely.
Not to me, because who is ultimately responsible for this action today? It is not OT6.
No, I agree with you. It is the county's responsible, but this is a project that would never have taken place had it not been OT6 saying, I need this for my benefit, I'm willing to pay it. It's like so many other things where we sign off on grants that we're just sponsorship for another organization. To me, I look at it that way, but I fully concur with you. If we're going to have our name on the line, we need to know what's going on. No issue.
So along that line, from day one, and even last week when we after the last meeting, we said go advertise this, get the bids in. That was published. The website was there, and that the bid plans were on record. Anybody could look at it. And I did, you could, we could, and I could have taken the initiative and sent you the whole thing. It's not an issue. Could have done that. But we were in we were working tooth and nail, time-wise, and we held this with all the bidders together and went through it, a process that I've seen many, many times. So I know, I understand the angst. And sometimes that's what, you've got teams out there and you're hoping that you are doing what you're paid to do. So I don't object at all. We can have all the daylight we want. I have the same issues also with other things that we do. We want to make sure, remember, none of us are in charge of this thing, the three of us are.
Absolutely. And we entrusted you to that.
That's right.
You came back, made your recommendation. Just like I asked Jackie Hobby earlier, what is your recommendation? I trust her to make the best decision, and I voted based upon what she said, along with everything else I know. So, I mean, any one of us should not ultimately manage everything. That's why we break things up into teams.
No, I concur with what you said, Commissioner Kanda, and you're exactly right. I had the opportunity to go on the website and look just like everybody else did. To be honest with you, I never even thought about accessing it there. Although I had a phone call and asked, where can I get the information to submit the bid, and I said on the website. So maybe I'm admitting my own short-sightedness here, but...
and I agree with you, Tom, and there's, we can't, that's why there's three of us, because we can't one guy do it all.
Right, exactly. The other question I have, and I mean this sincerely when I say I don't want you to take this as a challenge. This is business. This isn't personalities. To me, this is business. I guess my feeling is that, and maybe I'm wrong, because we haven't had this conversation, right? That's the other awkward thing.
That's the other thing about having, we can't talk except here.
Frustrating. I would have liked to ask at some point, do we have a written document from OT6 saying that they will cover 100% of this project?
Yes, and you've asked me for that before, and I
don't remember seeing
it. We
that.
voted. I gave it to Clint.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in a public meeting.
OT6, the agreement we had, just restate everything they presented to us they wanted to do, except that they asked us to share the cost of the original testing because it was to our benefit to know as well. And then they asked us because they did not have, they were going to donate, they were going to do the berm removal themselves with a contractor. And they asked us if we could do the berm removal, and I said, sure, if you pay for the, that was part of the process of negotiating, if you pay for the rental and blah, blah, blah. And then when that fell through, I got back with them and said, hey, how bad do you want? We can wait till we can do it. And I discussed this with Gary, and he came back with the costs for us on renting it and labor and getting a motor grader out there to polish it up, etc. Would have taken 6 weeks or more, probably. And OT6 says, well, I don't want to wait till spring, and I don't want to wait for you guys to get around to doing it either. So they said, we want it yesterday, and I said, well, then you got to be ready to pay for whatever, and they agreed.
Okay, and I'm not challenging you. Say they have agreed. I do not remember seeing that document. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying I don't have a memory of looking at that document. Counselor, you say you did.
Bill showed it to me a couple of weeks ago. I looked at it. It's a letter from them, but legally it is binding upon them. It's not a contract that we've signed, but we are acting in reliance on their promises, and it is legally binding.
That's all I'm indicating. I'm not challenging that you're not representing us. I just don't remember seeing it, so I'm struggling to see.
They even went further in that letter. They agreed because they were excited about the granting process. They are sharing 50-50 on all the matching costs with us for everything that we go forward with. Like you heard the AWAS system, $400,000 or $175,000 system, and the runway lights of the future, $400,000, whatever that matching grant that we apply for is, they'll match.
We have a motion on the floor.
We do? Yes.
But you know what, Tom? I appreciate you keeping us all honest. There's nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely.
Well,
Because I could be blowing it by, and
I
something
guess-
could have snuck in under the door. And
I guess that's probably the bottom line. It wasn't my intent. My intent was for me as a commissioner to know and to see the documentation.
Rather than taking everybody's time, why don't I sit down with you and I'll pull it out? I've got it with me.
Well, because it may have an effect on how I vote. So, Counselor, you don't have a copy with you of that letter?
No, I don't.
I have an indication to move to postpone on this. I would defer that based on Counselor and your statements that you're absolutely convinced,
Absolutely convinced.
seeing documentation, that OT6 will cover this cost.
Yes, it's in the form of a letter. It's not a contract that they have signed with the Board of County Commissioners, but under accepted legal principles, they have bound themselves by promises they have made to us.
And I revalidated that before, knowing that this could go high. It could. Higher than what they had expected. And they,
Well, yeah, certainly higher than what we had discussed.
right, and actually it fell right in. If you get right down to it, it's exactly what I told them, because when we discussed what it would take for Gary to do it and the fuel cost to do that, we could absorb if we did it. We couldn't do it in this case, so that added another 10, 20, 15,000
Well, so my
bucks.
question is now, if you notify OT6 what the bid is, it's going to, assume will be accepted, will they pay that money up front?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Actually, and it depends on how we stated in the contract, because I don't know if it was paid up or
This
not.
is what I put together that we could do it for
Right.
based on
Right, this is what he gave me earlier. So,
Yeah, and again, I don't mean to be a pain in the behind here, but Counselor said it. I assume that they will pay for this. Well, I guess I'm going on blind faith, because I sure as heck don't have
There is-
accurate memory of anything anything other than blind
There
faith.
is, well, it's not blind faith, Tom. They
It
cut-
is for me, because I don't
Well-
remember seeing this letter. I'm taking him at his word, but I don't remember seeing the letter. That's all I'm saying. So it is blind
I
faith
don't
for
know
me
how
to
that
vote on this
tells
today.
us.
Because if BOCC, for some reason, goes south on us, who do you think's gonna honor the contract
We
that
are
we're gonna
gonna
let?
cancel it. And that we have that option to do anytime. We didn't have to accept this bid.
No, I realize that. But if we do accept it,
That's,
But you're gonna have the money in the bank, I mean, with the treasurer up front
Right.
for this.
right, we're gonna have it here to spend.
I mean, that's at the end
which
of the
we've had
thing here,
in-
if they don't pay the money, we don't authorize.
As a matter of fact, let me
Cyber to
point out one other thing. I didn't mention this in our commissioner items, but all along, we've had task order B that we've all agreed to and you've seen. And that's the engineering design, it's the actual thing. There's two items that aren't funded yet from an engineering point of view, and that's the actual taxiway to be done in the fall, et cetera, or in the spring. We just got a request from Armstrong for $9,500 invoice for the completion of the staking. BOCC, I talked to them yesterday, that's when we got it, and they're sending the money. So before, it doesn't go anywhere, and Donna's gonna account for it just the same way she just did with the supplemental we just got. So they've been never questioning the approved costs that we've already had up front. Then that included what we initially thought we could do this for originally. So they're not gonna renege.
Just a comment. We had a very short window on the time the bids went out to when they came back, because time is of the essence of this. Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I would really ask that you do not postpone this, that we vote on this, we award the contract, and we get this thing underway. These people have been beyond generous and wonderful to us. They have asked us to step on it, get it moving quickly. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that I remember seeing a letter, and I thought to myself, this is great. And based on council and
I would echo that and add this.
and I think we should move forward with this, not postpone it.
There's one other reason not to postpone it, and that is there's one permit that has to be yet bought, which you can't do until you get the contract, and that's the state permit to do it. And that can take, and the discussion we had, you all recall it yesterday, that was probably, could run from 2 weeks to 2 months, they said, because of the bureaucracy. And they thought at this time of the year that there's not gonna be that issue from a state approval point of view because of the late in the fiscal year. So they're banking on a two-week window. And if
there's
we
a
wait too
mining
long-
permit?
I don't know what
Stormwater.
Oh, stormwater.
Stormwater.
Has nothing to do with the actual excavation, because that's all on private, or on county-owned
That's
land,
right,
it's
but
not
it's-
going off the land, so.
It's just
It's
It's just a stormwater.
We'll have to apply for the permit and then get all of our stormwater protection set up before we can actually start excavating. We're looking at like a 2-week window to get that done. Is that gonna count against the schedule?
No.
Okay.
We discussed that in a meeting. It's from when you start cutting dirt.
Sure.
Any further discussion?
No.
Public comment?
Are you guys voting on the notice to proceed?
That was gonna be my question,
Or is this
to
just-
council. Now, are we accepting a bid, and then do we have to turn around and give notice to proceed? Or is this gonna be construed as notice to proceed?
No, I think we're accepting this bid, pursuant or tentative on us securing the funds.
That's right, and
From lot 6 now, we've got a bid, which, and I don't know how long these bids are good for, I'm not sure if that was in the.
I think it is, in the back. I don't know, that's a good question.
Okay, but I would assume that we would have an answer, you'd have an answer very quickly from lot 6 now, based on these numbers. And as soon as they send the money, then we can authorize, Cypher to proceed.
Yeah, once we get the funding.
If I may, let me amend my motion to say that we accept the lowest bid and grant the authorization once the funds are received.
Secured.
Second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to amend the main motion by adding the words "and grant authorization to proceed after the funds are secured." Debate. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Sorry, public comment on the amendment, only on the amendment? Go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, not on the
Okay,
amendment.
all right. We'll proceed to vote on the amendment then, which adds to authorize, to grant authorization to proceed after the funds have been secured. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed nay. Motion carries. Sorry, the amendment carries. The motion then would read that we accept the lowest bid from Seifert Enterprises and authorize work to begin once the funds are secured from Lot 6 Ranch. Further discussion? Public comment?
We'll also need to fill out the contract that's inside the project manual before any of that starts,
Right.
I believe. Are you guys gonna want, we discussed it a little bit yesterday on the phone, are you guys gonna want the qualifications, financials, any of that stuff?
Remember that wasn't part of it because of the way it's.
It wasn't part of it at this point, is what I understood.
But
But it
once
would
we
be-
let the bid, you're asking, does it become part of it?
Yeah, do you need
I don't believe so,
qualifications
but
and
let me,
financials for
I
that?
don't think so. We'll have to I'll check with the rest of the engineering with the contract.
Okay.
But I don't think it is.
Okay, that's all.
The way I interpret it. But we'll clarify that.
Okay, further public comment, further discussion from the board? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of accepting the low bid from Seifert Enterprises for the earthwork removal. The airport, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Now we can say congratulations.
Now we could appropriately say congratulations.
thanks, Ed.
And say thank you. Ed, thank you.
Thank you very much for the bids, gentlemen.
I won't be doing it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Hey, Kelly, congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I look forward to working with you. Okay, let's see where we're at here. Thank you, Mr. Kanda.
Thank you.
Again, my intent was not to challenge or question your ability
Well, that's fine.
to speak in my piece.
Don't have to say more.
So ratification of letter of support for the San Carlos Ranger District is next on the agenda. Let me find that. We've had that in our board packet, gentlemen. It's
I didn't print that out for
Okay.
you, Tom.
all right.
I have it right here.
That's why I can't find it then,
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
was already signed and sent.
Oh, that's right. We were ratified.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, my mistake.
Right, we
Oh,
are.
it does say, the agenda does say ratify, so I would move to ratify the action of the chairman signing this letter of support for the San Carlos Ranger District.
I can second that.
Moved and seconded to ratify, it's not debatable, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. And we had sent that because they needed it prior to the date of this meeting. I think you gentlemen were aware of that. Thank you, ma'am, I forgot exactly where we were at. Next item of business, the fire extinguisher inspection quote. Rocky Mountain Fire provided us that quote. It is for the fire extinguishers within the courthouse, search and rescue, and the airport,
And the sheriff.
and the sheriff's. Yeah, and that was included in our packet as well, $345, I believe. Let me look.
14. 314.
314, okay, from Rocky Mountain Fire. Did you have an opportunity to see it, Mr. Candy?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. There it is, if you.
No,
I commented to Miss Brenda when I looked at this, was pleasantly surprised that we weren't being hammered a big trip charge, particularly since we're going to the airport. I thought that was pretty reasonable. It's $5.
Tell me where they're all going again?
Courthouse, search and rescue, sheriff's office,
And there.
and the airport.
what was the other one?
And $5 for an inspection that I didn't think was unreasonable. I would move we approve the quote to Rocky Mountain Fire for $314 even.
I'll second it, but I have a comment.
Okay, then moved and seconded to approve the Rocky Mountain Fire Extinguisher LLC's bid of $314. If it's a motion, we always better have an opportunity to have comment.
I know, I just want to make sure we don't move too quickly.
Yep. Discussion.
My only question is, and I think it's under the limit that we need to worry about, is this put out for bid or?
Way under.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about it. That's all I was worried.
Good
I just
point.
wanted to make sure we weren't violating any of our
Thank you.
policies.
Appreciate that. Other discussion, public comment?
Why do we even vote on this? Why is this not just like every other bill that comes in and we fix a typewriter, we don't typewriters, but we fix a computer or
Right.
something?
That's
Why
the way
does
it
it
should
come?
be.
I mean, why
We
does
got
it
the
come
funds
for
set
us?
I like typewriter. I mean, that's,
All right,
yeah,
never
that's a
mind.
good analogy.
Sure,
I like
It is a
that.
typewriter.
I'm sure
You know, you may be right on target here. This would be an invoice, but the work hadn't been done, and so I suppose this company may thought we'll submit the bid in case they're seeking other bids. I don't know about that, but you're right. It could probably be handled as a normal invoice.
Well, probably because it covers the courthouse, the sheriff's, search and rescue, and airport, which falls under the umbrella of commissioners and not any one of
I see,
those.
so they're
But,
invoicing each one
Right.
separate. I got it. That makes
yeah,
sense.
I don't know.
It's okay to do that.
I mean, Donna could probably sign
So
it,
let's
she might
vote.
not want to.
I could see it just being. It's not an invoice. That's the difference. I
Motion,
did.
you said?
He did.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And Bill seconded.
It's not an invoice, so it wouldn't be paid, it's a
Yeah,
quote
okay.
fee, so
Okay.
that may be the difference right there. If it was an invoice, I would assume
It would just.
the finance office would have paid it.
Yeah.
But since it's a bid, I imagine it ended up on our desk for that. Further discussion, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of accepting the quote from Rocky Mountain Fire, say aye. Aye, opposed nay, motion carried. We
Where are
will,
they based out of? Just out of curiosity?
Pueblo West.
Pueblo West.
Okay. Get back on the proper page here. Grounds and building position, gentlemen, I'm sure you're aware that Ed Reinhardt has submitted his letter of resignation, which we forwarded on to, which Brenda forwarded on to the commissioners, effective November 28th. He is planning on moving back to the East Coast on the 30th.
Going fishing, he told
So,
me.
yeah, gonna go fishing and go after blue clawed crab. I would move we accept Mr. Reinhardt's letter with regrets.
Second.
Moved and seconded to
Same
accept
vote.
Mr. Reinhardt's letter of resignation. Discussion.
Yeah, what happens if we voted no?
He's stuck
Gone.
with the,
I'm just curious.
Well,
Just stay here kicking
I
and
think
screaming
they
and
just
not
voted
mowing.
out the slavery
I was
thing.
gonna say, if we vote no, then we're also voting no on the slavery thing,
Yeah.
right? So we're
Okay.
gonna supersede that
I'm
new
just curious, I mean.
upcoming state law.
You know, it just doesn't make sense to
Yeah.
vote on it, but okay.
Well, again, you know, if
It's fine.
if one of us was his boss, we would have accepted it or rejected it, right?
That'd
But
be amazing.
we're all three, so.
Okay.
And I've got some further discussion concerning this.
The position I'd like to discuss.
Yeah, I would too, but I'm not sure this is appropriate now, but
Let's finish voting on.
let's do this and then we'll
acceptance.
have discussion on the other. Further discussion on the letter of resignation. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. Sorry, I should ask for public comment. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay.
Motion carries 2-1. His letter of resignation's been accepted.
I
Yes.
say that because, not to be
Well,
cute,
I know.
not to be cute, I think he's done, from what I have seen, an excellent job, and I'm sorry to see him leave.
Like-
That is the only reason I said nay, not to be cute or funny.
Right. No, I
So it really
agree.
didn't pass
It did,
unanimously.
2-1. No, not unanimously. 2-1 vote. Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, my heart sank when he told me that. Because
Yeah, it was a surprise.
has done a
Unless
great
you knew
job.
something with it.
Well, yeah, it was a surprise to me when he first brought it up. I mean, I was certainly aware that he wasn't thrilled about doing the cleaning. He had asked if we could maybe find somebody part-time to do the cleaning to free him up. One, he didn't like to do the cleaning. I said, that's too bad. That's part of the job. He said, I understand that. I'm just being honest. And secondly, he said, I could easily spend 40 hours a week on maintenance. Sure, and I got that. Those aren't the reasons he resigned, I can tell you. He resigned for personal reasons. So that leads us to this conversation that I wanted to have today. I don't think we had it anywhere else on the agenda. As I'm sure you're aware, Donna Hobby has posted this position to the 2 newspapers. She did that in an effort to compress the transition time between today accepting Ed's resignation, or the end of the month, yeah. But I spoke to Ed and asked him if he was comfortable with us advertising this position effective December 1. He certainly was, and offered to help train, transition, whatever that took. He said, if I'm here, I'll certainly help and do whatever I can for a new person. So Donna felt like if we did not get this in the papers this last week, then we're going to miss the Thanksgiving, the time frame. We'd be looking at the end of November before we could get the notice put out. So that's kind of where we stand with that. So she has advertised for this position as a possible of 2 24-hour a month or 1 40-hour. Sorry, 24 hours.
20.
Per week?
Per week.
20 hours?
20 hours.
20.
You have it, sir.
I have it right here. Want me to read it?
24 to 40. Yeah, so it's 24 hours.
Yeah, 24
Yeah.
to 40 hours.
Yeah.
Maintenance and or custodial,
Right.
it says.
So I think that allows the county to pursue refilling the position like it stands right now. 1 40-hour week. One person doing both maintenance and custodial. Or 2 part-time, 1 doing maintenance and 1 doing custodial. Is that, are we in agreement that that's how we want to proceed? That's the big question.
And then what will really dictate that will be applicants, what they're interested in, and then one of the things I would like to just caution us about is that this decision should not be made based on saving health insurance and other benefits. You know, that, right, okay, let's see.
Yeah, I mean,
you agree with me, I can tell just the way you acted. I'm just concerned, because if we said, oh, if we had 2 part-time, we could say, it's not where we go with this. We go with who is the best, or 2 of the best people that we can for the position.
Yeah, if we cannot fill it with 1 person,
Well, then we'll fill it with 2.
we'll fill it with 2, and that was, I think, the whole thing that Ms. Donna was.
And you could argue either way, the 2 positions, you get focus, you know, you might do more with custodial only.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same with maintenance. They don't have to worry about anything else. They can strictly do maintenance. Am I convinced that 24 hours a week for maintenance is going to be sufficient in the summer? No, I'm not. I think
We'll face it when we
we'll
find
face
out
it
where
when we get there. But if we can hammer out any of the maintenance stuff during the winter time to take pressure off of the summer, then I think we'd be ahead of the ball game there. But I agree with what you're saying. In my opinion, it's not driven by whether or not we have to pay benefits. It's driven by whether or not we can find somebody that we want. We'll gladly pay the benefits if we can find somebody 40 hours a week that will do both jobs, is my opinion. Okay, good. I don't believe an action item is required here, although if you guys so desire, Chair would entertain a motion to authorize the posting of the vacancy announcement. But
no, we've already done it.
Yeah.
So I think we just.
you okay? Move forward? Okay. All right, very good. I will convey to Miss Donna our conversation pertaining to such. Let's see. Liquor license for the Alpine Lodge. Mrs. Kemper.
Yes, this is for the Alpine Lodge, this is their yearly renewal. Everything's in order, he's got his application. I requested a, sheriff's report and there was nothing on there. He's got both of his checks, the county check for $100 and then the state check for $500. And,
For an
State's
annual
making a
renewal.
buck.
for an annual renewal. Yeah, should be a brand new one,
That's why
yeah.
a beer is $5.
Mhm.
I mean, they gotta pay for these crazy fees.
Yeah.
Well, if they were ever gonna get a sheriff's report, it would have been from the other night, right? And that didn't happen, so.
Bunch of rowdy
That's right,
commissioners.
commissioners show up and cause all kinds of,
I don't know.
okay. All right, entertain a motion?
I move we accept the application from Alpine Lodge for renewal.
Okay, we moved and seconded to approve the liquor license application for Alpine Lodge. Discussion?
Question. if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind. Ellen, why does this come before us? And I don't mean that derogatory, but like in the town, when these come through, the only time it goes before the trustees is if there's an anomaly, something that, you know, we got the license bought, here's the problem. I mean, is that something you could just routinely do and we don't need to vote on? Because we do, I think I asked you this question.
You asked that the
last
last
year.
time, and there
Yeah,
was
I'm
something.
just curious.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's always just been approved by the commissioners.
Okay.
I think because you guys are the authorizing entity
Entity.
for
I
the
think-
county.
It's county, it's not clerk and recorder.
Right,
I think
right.
because of that, if there was an issue with a bar,
And that's why,
and
you know, like,
you don't have to renew it, and you wouldn't want that to be a perfunctory, well, all they're doing is paying for it, and we're not gonna see
yeah,
it.
but the question really is not, it was if there's an issue, then it definitely needs to come before us. But if it's just a routine renewal,
Renewal.
I'm just curious, I
Do
mean,
renewals not come before the town board every year?
no, Kathy approves them on her own, provided there's no anomalies.
No.
You said to us, everything's in order, the police report's in order, your fees are here, she just approves
She
it.
just approves.
Mhm. And then I'm not even sure she tells the trustees that it's been approved.
Yeah.
I'm just curious
Well,
why
I
it's different between the
I always
two.
hate to say that's because that's the way it's always been done.
Ooh, don't do that.
So I'm
I'm
gonna,
not pointing any fingers.
No, I
I'll
would,
actually find out because,
And I don't think that, in my view, I don't view it that way at all. I view it as, it's a county deal, and we work for the people of the county,
This is not a big
and we're
deal.
accountable for the morale and welfare of the county.
And I don't mean to make a
So-
deal out of this, I'm just curious.
So I think it's
Legitimate question,
legit
but-
to,
That's fine.
Yeah, I think it's county business myself. I mean, obviously, they're paying the county for this permit.
Mhm.
And
Branding
again, if,
But we don't have 100 of them.
yeah, if we said to Kelly, you know, is there any problems? No. We're putting it on the clerk and recorder to make those determinations, what's a problem, what's not a problem, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not sure that's fair.
Okay. I didn't-
Why legally we do it, I couldn't even begin, but I like the system.
My goal was not
yeah,
to create an issue
Right.
here, my goal was more of just a
Why?
question, how come it's different between the
Yeah.
yeah,
two?
write that down in your book for the next
I will
application.
do it
You don't have
again
to hear
That's
this
right.
again.
If I'm here, I will do it again.
Yeah, and I'm assuming this liquor licenses are like everything else, it would require a majority vote to approve them, correct? And I wonder, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud now, if we have voted not to approve this, is there an appeal system,
Yes, there is.
for liquor
I've
licenses?
had that, I've been through that before, yes, they have a right to appeal it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, further discussion, public comment. Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the Alpine Lodge's liquor license application, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Next item of business is opening the sealed bids for the Great Creek County-owned property. We received a bid. Sorry, sir.
You may
for
there
that
for you.
property, gentlemen,
So it's pretty easy.
you're knowledgeable as to the location? Thank you.
While the bid is being open, can I ask this question? I know I've asked it before, I'm sorry, I don't know my gray hairs. Why are we selling this property? Why are we contemplating selling this property?
Okay, I can give you the long drawn out.
Don't do that.
No, you want the facts, nothing but the facts.
Yes, ma'am.
It's an opportunity
That's how you
to,
would say it.
that's right, yes,
Just the
ma'am,
fact, ma'am.
just the facts.
Can I have a peanut butter cup for the
It's
interview?
an opportunity for the county to realize revenues to help, offset the cost for the Justice Center. That's what the number one motivation was.
So if we accept the bid, that money will be put into an account.
I hope that's in the motion. If not, I would amend, yes. That's the intent.
Got it.
Secondly, when I first started looking into this, it wasn't as a revenue stream for the Justice Center. It was looking at the county-held properties, why we had them, why we were not converting them to funds that we could use for anything to help the county. And I
Pick
could
up
not
tax revenue.
I could not get an answer to that, why we wouldn't. Now, why would we? Number one was increasing the tax revenues. Typically, they're not gonna be significant, but in this case, it's gonna be a little more because I don't personally believe either one of these, well, they might stay in agricultural if they're converted and used as residential, but that's not our control. But if they are, then the tax income would be a little greater than if they remain agricultural. But to really peel the layers off of it is an opportunity for us to realize some income streams to help offset our lease purchase on the Justice Center. Yes, ma'am.
So, can you tell me how much land it is and where?
Yes, and that's what I was asking if, gentlemen, you knew where this property was. It is 2.3 miles north of West Cliff on Highway 69 on the west side of the road, 15.75 acres. It historically had been a gravel pit for the county.
It's on the west side, did you say?
On the west side of the highway. Yep.
Part of it crosses the creek.
Yeah. Great Creek bisects the property. And the letter we sent out to the adjoining landowners, who obviously this is an adjoining landowner because that's the only bids we're accepting at this point in time. The letter indicated that the county would grant a waiver of Senate Bill 35 because that is a county-generated decision, so that if somebody wanted to buy this 15.75 acres and build a home on it, they could drill a well.
This bid process was open to the full public, not just
No,
the two adjacent
no,
landowners?
no. It went, this bid process was only to the adjoining landowners. Had we not received any bids, then we would open it up to the public. And they had to meet a minimum bid requirement.
I don't remember seeing the bid for this. Was there a minimum bid requirement?
Yes. Yeah.
And is that based on an appraisal?
Yes.
And why would we not open this up to the general public?
That is a great question. I was hoping you wouldn't ask that because you're not going to like the answer.
No, I'm not, but go ahead.
I ask it numerous times. I ask it in the clerk and recording office, I ask it in planning zoning, and I ask it in the treasurer's office, and I ask it upstairs in the assessor's office.
None of them are BOCC commissioners, but go ahead.
Anytime, and particularly upstairs to the assessor's office. JD, he had the most knowledge and background and history on it. He said the county has always honored offering the adjoining landowners the opportunity to buy land from the county before it goes to the public.
I've got a real problem.
Told you wouldn't like it.
So that's the way it's always been done.
I did not say that.
Yeah, you did.
Did not
Is
choose
there-
those words.
Yeah, you
But
didn't
there's
have to.
nothing, but there's nothing in writing, no resolution. or
I could not
anything.
find anything that directed.
What I know about it from history is that it's a courtesy because in a lot of cases, that piece of ground was a result of a landowner given up the land for a use the county could have, and that was a courtesy to give it back to them. The option to take it back.
Here's where my mind is going with this, okay? Obviously, an adjoining landowner probably should have a preferential right. However, I think it should go out for bid to the general public with a last right of refusal by the adjacent owner, because we're talking about taxpayer property, and the taxpayers deserve to get the highest and best value we can for the land. So if we want to give a preferential right to an adjacent landowner, I say you put it out for bid, the adjacent landowner then has, and when you put in the bid, the adjacent landowner will have a right, doesn't have to beat it, just match it. You know, has the first right of refusal at the highest bid. If not, it goes highest bid. And if it's only one adjacent landowner, that solves the problem. I have a real problem restricting open bids to sell county property.
But, and I'm not, I can go either way on it, but my view is, that's why the minimum bid was there. It's all based on an appraisal. Then the taxpayer's being protected to.
It's not good enough though.
To get it.
It's not, in my opinion.
That's all.
It's not good enough in my opinion.
Okay. And my comment would be, I disagree. I think it is. If Jackie or all of us or one of us picked a dollar figure and said, okay, this is what we think, I would have some angst over that. That's why we had it's not an appraisal, we can't use that word, but a evaluation. Market analysis. Thank you. I could not get that under my tongue. Then I would agree. Again, I have a little issue with, well, that's the way it's always been done, but had we not had the part of the plan was to allow adjacent landowners first, honoring their proximity to the property, and not gone to the open public, then I'd have a problem. I think we're looking out for the county, the taxpayers, and the value of this land. We're not giving it away by any means. It almost averages $5,000 an acre.
Yeah, it would have been a lot different if we just said, what would you give for it?
Right, ask them, hey, we want to sell this, what do you give it for us?
So, give us for
respectfully, I
you look at where
understand what
it
you're
is,
saying.
it is pigeonholed in there, and it is a courtesy, and it's sort of the code of the West tradition kind of thing.
I'm not saying that the adjacent landowner does not have
preference,
the right to buy it. Just I'm concerned about the value, because we are the custodians of that land for our tax base, our constituency, and I'm just very concerned about having a market appraisal. I'm assuming that was done by a realtor, not a full-blown appraisal. The market analysis is not sufficient in my book. I'm just voicing my concern, and I'm not in favor of this at all.
It goes both ways. You could get an underbid.
Okay.
Yeah,
and voicing my opinion.
Appraisal could have come in at
about how the
$10.
process is.
And again, respectfully,
That's fine.
I respect your statement right there. I wished it would have been earlier in the process. We could have looked at the process differently and maybe gone that route. Not saying we still couldn't, if that's what the board decides. I have a concern about that. We only received one bid. Now, doesn't mean we wouldn't receive bids from
what? How many people were even offered?
4 landowners, 4 adjoining landowners.
You got 25% of the landowner's bid.
Right.
If it was open to the public, you may have only gotten one, and then I'm perfectly comfortable because we've made our decision properly.
And here's the, to me, this is how the process would go. If we decide we do not want to accept this bid, then we post it to the public.
Doesn't seem like
Wait a minute, before you waste too much energy here between your ears, it's a hole in the ground, Jay. Have you seen it?
It's not. It could be.
You're talking about the process, right? You're talking about the process.
I know.
It could be a granite rock. I don't care.
Let me read this statement. If there are no bids submitted and or accepted by the BOCC, the property will then be offered for sale on the open market. So that process could happen.
Actually, we ought to hold this discussion, because we don't even know what the bid is.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
If we
the
can
other-
discuss it then, it'd be
It
more
doesn't
logical.
matter to me.
Sure we can.
Well,
They could've-
see,
they
he's
could've
only,
bid- They could have bid
I understand.
$100,000 an
I get it.
acre, and I would have said,
it's
time
the
out,
process,
it's
right?
the process that's wrong.
Yeah, but you had time to address the process, so did I, when Tom started doing this. We all started looking, we were actually looking at a lot of different properties.
Honestly, kind of like Tom was confused earlier,
Yeah.
I truly, you may have told me and I don't remember, I may have had the right to go look and I didn't. This could be totally my fault for not knowing the full process until just this morning. I did not realize this was not an open market bid process.
Yeah, and I sent this copy of this letter on
I'm good with
October
that.
the 23rd.
I'm sure you did, I'm not blaming you one
No,
iota, it's
understand.
me.
Yeah, I was just there. I get it
Yeah,
100%.
I'm with you at the
And-
same time.
But at the same time, I think we all need to hold ourselves accountable and say, gentlemen, either voice our concerns early. I'm not picking on you because I'm picking on both of us.
No,
Do our
it's fine.
research a little better,
It's
take
fine.
the initiative to go look. I don't know. But again, I actually appreciate this conversation prior to knowing what the bid is, because we're not talking about the bid, we're talking about the process, and that's important that we do that.
I don't care who the person is.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
care
right.
where it is, as long as it's in the county.
So, I'll tell you, I am worried, because when we had one, I get it that it's 25%. We wouldn't get 25% of the public bidding on this, that's for sure. So, I would just caution that if we have to start this process over again, we may be
zero
at
bids.
risk that we get 0 bids.
I concur.
I don't see how you can back up now.
Can't
You
Oh.
advertised a minimum, if the one bid is at that minimum, then, I mean, that was your word, that's like raising the price on a product at the store.
And you
I
have,
don't see how you can do that this time.
and you
The
have a very
process
valid point.
you can talk about, but this time it seems to me like if you advertised a price and a process, you better stick to
Okay,
it.
I don't believe she has a valid point, and I'll tell you why. Because of this sentence that we put right here in the letter. If there are no bids, or BOC chooses not to accept the bid, then the property will be then offered for sale on the open market.
We still
Now,
have to look at the bid.
it's in the process that we can do that, is it right? I'm not gonna, I don't know about that.
It might be legal because you put those words
Right.
in, but whether it's ethical
Morally,
and the right thing
right.
to do, and that's, to me, the bigger issue. I don't care what the legalities
Right.
are, it's the right thing to do in this case. I think that your process discussion is the right thing to do as
Yeah.
well, but not for this case.
Yeah, you know, there was a couple of routes we could have gone. We could have foregone the market analysis and do as we did with the airport project, submit a bid. There was no minimum on that. We put the minimum on the minimum bid we would accept on there for for the reason I think you have concerns about, Commissioner Prince, is that so we're honoring our taxpayer responsibility, or our responsibility to the taxpayer. I think it would have been irresponsible to put that out, get a bid for $29,000 and accept the bid and move on.
Or for $10.
Or for $10, regardless of what that
I'm in
dollar
for the
been one bid,
$10, by the way.
Pardon?
Yeah.
I'm in for $10.
Okay, you're in for $10. So, that being said, let's listen to the bid. We certainly can continue this discussion. We don't have a motion on the floor yet, correct?
All right, I move we,
Well,
You gotta have your.
normally,
I've got two questions.
okay.
The letter that was sent out, did we have a survey of a specific legal description of
Yes.
this property?
Sure did.
So there's not any question about what the
No.
person is bidding on?
I could read it to you.
Okay.
Yep,
And-
definitely.
No, I just needed to know. And was the minimum amount set forth in the letter?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
$73,000.
Okay,
Sorry, $72,000.
all right. Okay.
Let me read that just to clarify. A market analysis has been completed for the 15.75 acre property, and the minimum bid the BOCC will accept is $72,000. Location of this property is 2.5 miles north of Westcliff on Highway 69 North, west side of the highway, and then the legal description follows. If you are a successful bidder slash buyer, Custer County will provide a subdivision waiver of Senate Bill 35. The transaction does not guarantee that size, soil conditions, or flooding conditions are such that a zoning permit, well permit, or sewage disposal permit will be issued. The transaction will be conducted with the understanding that all expenses involving the required improvements shall be the responsibility of the new landowner and not of Custer County.
And the adjacent landowners, that was all determined with JD by...
JD on the county maps. He gave me the names and addresses, that's correct.
I'm very torn, because Jackie's point was well taken. It's kind of our word. We kind of said how we're going to do it, and we always honor what we say. The first sentence says we can reject the bid, but I think the process is just terribly flawed. So I'm torn. So I think your point's well taken.
We move forward and we work the process on the next one. Different if we have a problem.
It's a great point, and let me explain. We have moved forward with this process on the Rosita property as well. Now, I can't tell you the exact date that those letters went out to the adjoining landowners, but the contract, or not the contract, this letter says that
both were advertised.
Yeah, and that they have 14 days from the date this notice was mailed to the adjoining landowners. Yes, same process. Sir?
This is a handwritten letter dated November 7, 2018, addressed to Dear BOCC. I would like to submit a bid on the old gravel pit that adjoins my property. Big E Ranch Limited, Cecily W. Ketterer, managing partner, 6267 Kenwood Avenue, Dallas, Texas, 75214. There's a phone number here. Email address cwketterer@aol.com. $73,001. And I assume that signature is C.W. Ketterer.
$73,001.
We don't know if this is a cash deal or a finance deal or anything. Because that'll be their responsibility.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. That's how
they have to give us the cash however they get.
Yeah, we're not.
We're
not issuing
the finance business.
Okay.
And if, before, I have some comment on this too, but let you look at that letter first. The county can offer this in different ways. If we offer it by quitclaim deed, we don't have to do any title search or anything else.
The way it goes.
All we're agreeing is we'll sign over our interest to you. And if there's any question about it, then they would have to do the title search.
Sure.
If we go through a title insurance company, we'll have to pay for the title insurance policy. If it's just a quitclaim deed, I can prepare that, and that's all we need to do. So I just wanted you to understand.
And if we, just for clarification, if we don't do a quitclaim, then what?
It would be warranty deed, and we would have to have title insurance because we're agreeing, or it's our, we're agreeing that it's good title, and if there's any cloud on the title, we'd be legally responsible for addressing that. So it would obviously be our advantage just to quitclaim it if this may be a matter of further negotiation if the bid itself is accepted. Because I don't think it wasn't made clear in the request for bids.
Yeah,
We're going to continue discussing this before we put a motion on. If we are, I have some.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. Don't you? Sure. We can have informal discussion prior to.
Sure.
Okay.
My view is $73,000 buys a lot of ground in different spots up here. You can get 40 acres in some cases. That's a darn good price for that, and that's based on the market in that kind of an area. It's got a little bit of grass The rest of it's the side of a hill and a hole. I think we're lucky to even get that bid. Now, and that's not to say that somebody else couldn't see that and say, well, but I would be willing to bet if we put a minimum on it, we're gonna get 3 bids at $1 over. And then what do we do? If they do.
Well, yeah, we've already got the minimum on it.
We got it already, and so I think given the process was already in place, and I do believe, because this is me from a perspective of historically being a resident of this valley and a family here, there's always been the case where the rancher, the landowner adjacent, and that doesn't mean it's right, Jay, I'm just saying
I'm not saying they shouldn't have the last right of refusal.
That's right.
I concur with that.
And so that always should be the case. And
that is not my issue.
And we can always set up a process that says, we could have set the minimum higher if we don't wanted to, than what the market assessment was, if we were really wanting to push it.
We did.
Yeah, all right, we did. So,
well,
not a bad thing.
For the matter of transparency, let me put this out there, that the market analysis was set up on a low, average, and high value. And so we went the middle of the road.
It's a little higher.
Yeah. That minimum bid was set between the low and the average.
Which kind of, it's good that he bid that much, he must want it.
I know, that process, and I respect
If
that.
it was a $10 bid, it's the process I have.
Okay, but we...
yeah, unless we vote differently, when we sent these letters out, I was convinced that we were all on board with the process. So I wouldn't
and I apologize for not doing my homework like I should.
Okay, I would move that we accept Big E Ranch.
Big E Ranch Limited.
Big E Ranch Limited, C.W. Ketter representing.
Cecily W. Ketter, managing partner.
Let me restate now that I move that we accept the bid from Big E Ranch on the property set forth in the letter sent to the adjoining landowners for $73,001.
Can I make a suggested amendment to that?
Let's get a second to the motion first, because there may not be anything to amend.
I'll second.
Okay. It's moved and seconded to accept the bid from Big E Ranch. Discussion.
Can we put in that the funds are strictly restricted to the Justice Center project? And in the event, this is Jay talking now, in the event that the Justice Center project is not come to fruition, that the money be earmarked for the landfill.
Okay.
I don't want to go into I don't want to go into
The general fund would be terrible.
My conversation ahead of time with Miss Donna, which maybe we can follow up on real quick, was that this money would be earmarked for capital improvement line item in the budget. Miss Donna, my question is, if we put this money from the sale of the land, capital improvement, do we further earmark it or not? And if we don't, if the Justice Center thing never came to fruition, could we then legally use that money, roll it over to be used, earmarked for the landfill?
I would not restrict it further, only because capital outlay money is restricted money. That 24% of the sales tax cannot be used for anything but capital projects.
So if we put in capital projects, can we still use it for landfill if we had to down there?
Yes, you could.
Perfect. I'll second your amendment, sir. Moved and seconded to amend the main motion by adding the words, earmark the money to go into capital outlay for use on the Justice Center. Is there a second?
I second.
Oh, you did say that.
No, I'll second.
Oh, okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded to amend the main motion by adding the words, earmark the money. Dedicate the monies to go into capital outlay line item budget. Capital outlay, capital improvement.
Yeah, no, you're good. Will that be, this particular one go in this year's coffer or next year's?
I would say this year. I don't know that it matters, but we'll probably receive the
It
funds.
gets rolled over
If the
anyway,
transaction's
so-
held this year, I'd say we do it
It does,
this year.
but I had put the revenue for next year, so
Oh,
I just need to
I don't think it
remember that in
matters
my
to you.
mind. I just need to remember that.
So let's roll it to
It's
19.
going into a bank just to hold
It doesn't
for a
matter.
specific, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
Are we in discussion?
We're in discussion on the amendment, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have
Further
a question on
discussion,
the main motion.
public comment, here,
No.
hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on the amendment, which states that we will earmark this money for capital outlay, originally designed to be used to offset the cost of the lease purchase. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. We'll now have discussion on the main motion, which states that we accept the bid and earmark the money to capital outlay.
I had another question. I was just looking at the map here. How long ago was that used as a landfill or a gravel pit rather?
It was pre-1985.
I'm just wondering if there, like with our landfill, there are restrictions that go on for a long, long time.
Perfect.
And I don't know if it was gravel pit or if there are any state regulations
Yeah.
that place restrictions on
Let
it.
me, I sort of clarify that, not entirely, but I went out there with Rusty
Okay.
and went through it with him, and he at that time, they actually reclaimed it. It's already been knocked in and landscaped and reseeded. So I believe that it complies with whatever the requirements were by the state at that time.
All right, but Rusty was
knows.
familiar with it,
Yes,
and he was working for
he
the
worked
county
there at
back
the time.
then.
Right.
All right.
And to follow up though, Jackie did do the legal research, contacted the CDPHE, that property has been released.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So, further discussion.
Just for
public comment.
clarification, the minimum was 73 or 72?
72, according to this letter. I'll be honest
So
with
she
you.
bid
I
$1,000
just-
and $1 more.
Right.
Okay.
Let me look at one other thing real quick, because had you asked me before the meeting started, I would have said 73.
But that's what you.
But then when you read the letter, it was different. So.
Yes, let me double check on the other adjoining landowner and make sure they were. Yeah. Yeah, $72,000.
So the bid was $1,001
Yes.
above the minimum.
Right.
Got it.
Further discussion, public comment. Hearing none, we will proceed to vote on accepting Big E Ranch Limited's bid of $73,001. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed nay.
I'm going to abstain because I'm concerned, and I would like the record to reflect I have no idea who this particular landowner is. There's nothing personal here. It's a process I'm concerned about, so I'm going to abstain. I'm not going nay because I'm not opposed to it. I'm just going to abstain.
Okay, motion carried on a 2-0 vote with one abstention. Let the record show that, please. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you letting me voice my concerns.
No, you legit.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it. Okay. Now, Counselor, so move forward then from here. We notify the successful bidder.
Yes, that the commissioners have voted to accept the bid of $73,001. And I think if you want me to do this, I can write a letter to her, ask her how she plans to, or how the entity plans to pay for this. And I basically want to say the county, would prefer to just issue a quitclaim deed, surrendering any interest we have in this property to you. It has been in the hands of the county for I don't know how many years, obviously a long, long time. There's been no claims on it. And I don't know whether she would accept that or if she would insist. If she's going to get financing, she's going to want a warranty deed. If it's a cash deal, she may not care. It's going to be the lender that'll really determine that.
I don't know how you stated it, but you said would like to. I would say we will issue a quitclaim deed. That's our intent.
That could.
That's part of your language. But my
stop
point
the
is,
deal,
you don't want to
I
open it up.
If that was part of the bid,
Right.
I would agree with you, but I think we ought to just leave it.
Yeah, maybe.
We
I
would
just
prefer
need-
to do that and see what they say.
Well, I think I just want to ask how she intends to pay for this. If it's just a cash deal, then we'll just excuse me, give her a quitclaim deed unless she says otherwise, but if she's gonna finance this, and she may wanna roll it in, finance her other piece of property
That's right.
and put it all together.
Well, I'm certainly no real estate expert. I philosophically don't agree with the quitclaim deed. I just feel like if we're selling a piece of property to honor that buyer and that $73,000 bid, we need to provide it.
And frankly, title insurance on a piece of unimproved ground is not gonna
$200
cost a
maybe?
whole lot of money, so.
So that's my opinion. I would go along with you asking, would you be willing to accept a quitclaim deed, or would you prefer a warranty deed, and let her decide that. I think she deserves that right with $73,000.
Well, before that, I wanna find out if she says, yeah, I need it. Was there anything in the letter that went out as to how long they would have to close the deal if
No.
the bid was accepted? Okay, how long do you want to give her to come up with the financing, or with the money, however she wants to do it?
45 days?
I don't think
No, I don't
it's fair
think you
to,
want it.
I don't think it's fair to box them in. I mean, they've made an
Especially
agreement.
since it's the only bid.
They made a bid on it, and now they can perform, and we're just gonna have to go, like any deal, you
How
would
about
go
this,
along.
our intent to close on this prior to the end of the year?
We'd like to close
Would that be,
Sure. I don't know that.
Kelly, I just need a copy of this letter, and I'll write to her and let her know that the bid's been accepted. I'll give it to Brenda.
Is that the original letter, or was that
So
a
you don't
copy
have
of
to
the
hop
letter?
Well, that's,
What?
that was what she mailed us, yeah.
Yeah. Bring one up here.
so what is the correct term if you want to vote and make a comment? What is the term for that? I can't remember what it is.
Oh, qualified vote,
Qualified.
absolutely. And any time, gentlemen, and that's, I thought about this the other day, because planning commission does it on every vote.
Who does?
The planning commission goes around and I guess they could abstain, but they say, they vote, and then they go around and poll their commission, justify your vote. And everybody justifies it. But that's their chosen method. Certainly under Robert rules, anytime you want a roll call vote, all you gotta do is ask. And I would never insert that, I would allow that, yeah. So, because I think there are times when you may wanna vote, but by golly, I wanna justify my
And
vote.
that's why I want to say,
Well, I usually do.
I have nothing, I don't know this family, this is not anything personal, I'm just concerned with the process.
Now, I thought about that after that planning commission, I thought, yeah, we need to make sure that all of us have the equal authority to request a roll call vote, and really there's only two reasons. You want the public to know how you personally voted for it, you can't always do that in a voice vote. And two, you want the opportunity to qualify or justify your vote, and that's the only time you'd ever do it on a roll call, you can't do that on a voice vote. Because it may be different than your debate, see, that's the thing.
Right.
Your discussion may be one thing, justifying your vote may be another, and you might, justification could run the gamut, I want my voters in my district to know I oppose this. That's why I'm voting no, I mean, that's.
We've done that in the past.
Yeah, if we don't talk about it, it seems a little awkward, because any of us can request a roll call vote. So, just need to have that up front. So you, moving forward, then will write her a letter, let her know.
Get that in the mail today.
And then I wanna ask again specifically, will you allow her the choice, or are you gonna tell her what we prefer?
I'm actually gonna ask her how she wants to handle this.
Okay.
If she intends to get a loan, or if it's gonna be a cash deal. Now, if she says she's got the money, then I'll tell her we can get this done real quick. If, she gets a certified check and we can have a quitclaim deed for her. And see, I'm just trying to see, she owns a property, or Big E owns a property at 105 4th Street.
Right, that's her home.
Okay, so, all right, that's what I was
But the
looking.
property she owns adjoins our property on the north.
Right, and I saw that.
Okay.
I was looking just to see if Cecily and Todd Windows. Okay, I was just looking to
Yeah.
see how it, but Okay, well, I'll get a letter out there right away, but I'm gonna leave, I wanna find out first about how she wants to handle this, if she's gonna need time to get financing, because if that's the case, then there's gonna be a title insurance for sure, which is our obligation to pay for.
Again, I guess I wanna go back and visit the process a little too, and I'm just throwing this out. Is it any of our business whether or not she's gonna pay cash or get a loan, or should we,
Not whatsoever.
No,
we
it's
would,
Only,
should we say,
no, I, only,
how do you wanna
if
proceed?
she's gonna finance
You're,
it, for
you care
sure.
about the time, that's why you're wondering if she's gonna take the
Yeah,
time to
I want
finance it.
to set up some kind of a, you know, a time frame to get this done. Hopefully we can have it done by the end of the year. And frankly, like we talked about, the title insurance is gonna be so minimal, maybe we shouldn't even make an issue of that. What's gonna happen also, if there's gonna be financing, then I need to draw up a contract that she has to sign and the board has to sign, where, you know, a purchase agreement for, and because that's what the title insurance
Well-
company's gonna need.
And they're gonna want a core.
Yeah, but she wouldn't finance it through us.
No, but no, she'd have to go get a loan, but the title insurance company needs to have a contract to start working from in order to do
Right.
the title
I
insurance.
just had it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not real comfortable in wording this letter to say, depending on whether you're gonna pay cash or finance it, this is how we proceed. I just think that's awkward for me. I mean, I just would like to say, would you be satisfied with a quitclaim deed, or will you require a warranty deed? I mean, that's where I'm coming from. Does that make sense, or am I just overthinking it?
I think you're overthinking it.
Okay.
Yeah, because,
Well, I'll be
she's
very
offered
candid
to buy
with
it,
her that
let her
we
go
can get
figure
it
it and
done
tell us.
very quickly, if, you know, if she was satisfied with a quick
Replace
claim.
one, how would
If
you
she
like to
doesn't
proceed
understand
with
what
this
it
one?
means, you know, I'll be happy to explain what it is. We're not guaranteeing we own it,
I think I'm happy
we're
with
positive we
Clint
do.
talking to her, writing her, whatever.
I'm gonna forward, all of you gentlemen this letter again, particularly you. It's not on letterhead here because Brenda printed that off on letterhead. But let me do that right now.
Alright.
And then you'll have that wording as well. Think it was Halloween the way my computer's acting today. You want a copy?
Sure.
Send me a copy.
I already have you on this. Yeah.
Nice thing about electronic stuff, you don't have to.
And I'm not, I don't mean that you didn't send it previously.
Right, no,
I
I'm-
was delinquent.
Gotcha. And your name again? Oh, yeah.
Depends on the
So,
date.
Clint J. Bill Kelly. Ben's already got a copy.
Clint.
Clint's
You
on
said
there.
Clint.
Yep. I'll put, Great Creek property as a subject.
You know, there's fish in that creek.
Yes. Do you want the Rosita property as well? I might as well again, huh? Whoops.
Why not?
Let me double check it, make sure it's not
When
wrong.
we tell them the Rosita stuff was wrong.
88,000. I will double check, because I don't know this for a fact. Jackie told me that her assistant would send out this Rosita letter last week. If that hasn't happened, and if you want to revisit the
Don't back
process,
up now.
but now I don't know.
Okay, here's what I would like to recommend based on what you just said. If it has gone out, we honor, because I think Jackie hit it exactly on the head. We cannot renege on something, a promise that we made, even though we have the right to. The spirit is just as important as the letter. If it has not gone out, then I would like to suggest that we revisit and decide if that's how we want to do it. Is that reasonable, gentlemen?
Sure.
Okay. So that's been forwarded to you gentlemen and lady.
Is the legal description set forth in what you're just sending to me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
survey, did we survey that to get the legal, or did we already have it? Just curious. Or do we pay that expense?
We had the legal description on this one. I asked Kit, and Jackie talked to Kit and said we needed legal description on this one, that we could not find one, and Kit provided us for the legal description, so I'm assuming that he surveyed it. I don't know that.
Without opening a new can of worms, Kit normally charges the county when he does that. Since he charges us, would it be in our best interest to suggest maybe get a bid from more than one person?
To survey it? I don't know that. He's our surveyor, but you're talking about not county surveying here.
Right, but even as the county survey, he charges to survey.
Yes, but he didn't do, this probably was county survey. His surveying falls into two realms.
It's kind of a gray area.
Right, county and non-county.
I'm not trying to open a can of worms.
Right.
I'm just concerned again about being responsible for our taxpayer dollars.
And in this case, it's water under the bridge because we've already got the legal description. Now, how we got that, I can't sit here and tell you because I never followed up with Kim.
And we didn't pay, okay.
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of.
That's fine. Yeah, cool.
I just know they forwarded me the legal description I included in that letter.
Fine.
So, how we got that,
Magic.
I should be able to tell you, but I can't.
It's fine.
Okay. So thank you. Let's move forward to business. Boy, you talk about the acronym city. The Community Development Block Grant application from the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments.
I move that we sign the agreement for Custer County.
I'll second it. Move on.
Been moved and seconded to sign the Community Development Block Grant Business Loan Fund application. Discussion.
So this is a continuation of something that's going on.
Yes.
It actually has benefited at least one, maybe more, businesses here. It's a reasonable, I read it to the best of my ability because I think on page 20 I dozed, but I think it's reasonable. It's a 5-year renewal, and I think we ought to just go ahead and do it.
I just want to read you a quick email string because I think it's pertinent to where we're at. I had originally contacted Mr. Bogle, asked him if he would be interested in sharing his input and insight concerning the grant. He subsequently sent a letter to Judy Lonis, or actually he responded to me and said I talked about this request of Judy Lonis, apparently an administrative necessity every 5 years. He included myself and Judy on that email. He said that the grant goes through Chaffee County to the COG for the benefit of all 4 counties. There isn't any risk to Custer County. This funding vehicle is supported in part, along with banks, a business here in town to help acquire a building. Judy responded, yes, that is correct. Upper Ark COG has been providing the small business loan program for more than 30 years. Several Custer County businesses have benefited. There is no cost or liability to the county. Chaffee County serves as the grantee and passes the funds to Upper Ark COG. We do the program administration and compliance. Custer County has a representative on the committee that reviews the loan request and determines the approvals. This is a routine renewal of the agreement with the state to make funds available for businesses in our region. Judy Lonis.
Is that an email?
That was an email.
Can you forward that to me, please? I can write that.
Yeah.
down.
Anyone else interested in that email?
No, but that's a good one, and it shows that we haven't got risk, so to speak, and we benefit. So
yeah, correct. I agree. There was a motion, did I hear?
Yes, no? There was.
Been moved and seconded that we approve, or that we sign the Community Development Block Grant Business Loan Funds application. Further discussion? Hearing none, public comment? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. I think there's 5 or 6 signatures required here because this whole thing is broken out into different sections.
here.
Oh, I got it. just snuck away from me. So I think, yeah, just, they're asking for the chairman of the different counties' board of commissioners to sign, so. And then, Miss Brenda, you prepared to send this on to the appropriate?
Sure.
Okay.
Can I make a comment while you're doing that?
Certainly.
Brenda, thank you for what you did on the courthouse grant. That was a really excellent job you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I sent you a little note saying good job or something.
In that same vein, I'm actually kind of excited that we did move our meeting so that we can all be there. I think that's good to
Very
have.
important.
Am I thrilled about another trip to Denver? Never.
No, I hate going there, but this is important stuff. You've got to do it.
Unlike Mr. Kanda, I struggle getting around Denver. It's always a challenge for me just to find that building, let alone park. I did park last time and I went in and the guy said, "Where'd you park?" I said, yeah, I wouldn't recommend parking there. That's a private parking garage. You have to have a sticker and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. So I went back across the street and, yes.
When we go to Secretary of State's office, we have to park down a couple blocks and then walk.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Next item of business is the Department of Local Affairs Planning Grant application pertaining to our Justice Center. I believe we were provided a copy of the letter that we were sending Miss Dune, our regional rep for DOLA. Again, Ms. Brenda, thank you for your efforts on our behalf. Nice document. Is there a way we can do this without that shadowing at the bottom of that?
Of what?
Yeah. That's my printer, my print cartridge.
It's like it's picking up some print from the other.
Yeah, that's what I wondered, if it was from the copier itself.
It's a copy problem.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a big deal, I don't know.
You
gentlemen look at it.
Well, I'm gonna scan it and email it.
Oh, you are?
So it's not going to be.
As noticeable.
So.
I use almost the same paper, and what I found is they have two different kinds. One is called, it's look identical. One's business and one's linen. The linen bleeds and looks terrible. Okay, you knew that. Okay.
Oh,
sorry,
no, it's okay. No,
so when I order it, I always make sure I get the business one, and then it goes through those printers just beautifully.
Okay.
Even though the color is identical.
It doesn't look super professional in this case if we're scanning the mail matter. They don't need an original hard copy mailed.
I don't think so.
So this is for the Justice Center planning?
Planning grant, yes, that's correct.
And how much are we requesting?
75K total project costs and anticipated funds of 40,000 from underfunded courts grant and 10 from the county.
We're asking for 25 from DOLA.
Okay. Underfunded kicks in, DOLA we're asking, and we'll kick in.
So 25 from DOLA, 45 from underfunded, and 10.
No, 40.
40.
40. And 10 from the
We would like to request 25,000 to be used in conjunction with anticipated funds of 40K from the underfunded courts grant and 10K from the county.
Okay, thank you.
And the underfunded one is the one you're going to on the
30th, that's correct. Do we have a motion?
I
move
we
we
sign
I'll move it. He can second it this time.
You already signed it. It's been moved and seconded.
We're moving on, boys.
Moved and seconded that we,
Once noon hits.
Hit
Oh,
my 12 o'clock
Oh.
whistle.
Unless you order pizzas,
I
all
thought it
bets are
was
off.
1. I didn't
No.
know that.
It's
It's been
noon.
moved and seconded that we approve the letter requesting funding from DOLA for our Justice Center project. Is there any further discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries. We will sign said letter.
So I think Commissioner Kennedy needs to resign since he didn't. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's not a legitimate signature. It was
Yeah.
pre-motion.
Thank you, sir.
No, legally, since he already signed, if you two had not, he would have had to pony
He'd
up the
had to
10,000
Pay the
himself.
10 grand. That's the way with me.
No, I just,
Let's revisit that. Any further business to be conducted for the board?
I think we were very productive this morning.
Thank you. I just want to back up, gentlemen, maybe you can help me here. The bid from Mountain Valley was $97,340. Did anybody make a note of that?
Yeah.
I did.
That was it.
It was,
it was 97,340.
correct.
And $70,750 from Cypress.
Correct. Very, very significantly different, which surprised me. You would think they would be close to do the
And
same
it's
job.
very close to what we were doing.
And, yeah, and that's what I looked at. So what we were gonna do was basically the same as Cypress, so, good.
And they get it done a lot faster.
Come before the board at this time. Hearing no objections. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanna say thank you for the Christmas party.
Oh, you're
We
welcome.
didn't say that before, and
Okay. Yep.
I,
The date to be selected by the group, right?
yeah.
Okay. The
It's
time is
usually
12 to 2.
It's usually that week, I mean, we try not to do it the week of Christmas, cause people are gone, but it plays 1920.
Always
Figured
dicey.
I knew it.
Always dicey there. 12 to 2, is that the plan? Offsite. That's what you're gonna
I think that's what we're gonna try.
propose, okay. Yeah, you're welcome. No problems. Hearing no further objections, this meeting is adjourned. 12:31.
Good enough.
Thank you.
Tell me